This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to a game day edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson, Michael Remis with you. Got a busy one today. Islanders in town. Number 1 overall pick and Calder favorite Matthew Schaefer takes to the ice at Canada Life Centre for the first time. I was saying to Dusty on the Lock Shop just last hour, honestly, you look at all the games, and I think back when we were splitting up season ticket games and drafting the game, like the mid-January Tuesday night game against the Islanders was not really at the top of many lists. I am legitimately fired up to see this kid play tonight. He's box office. So see whether the Jets can make it 3 in a row against the Islander team that's played very well this year and comes in a playoff spot in the incredibly tight East. And we get a chance to see the kid that will likely, barring injury, hold up that Calder trophy at the end of the year. And who knows, depending on injury, could potentially get a call for Team Canada. Was very much in the mix, and I believe is still in the protocol should they need to call him up. So Islanders Jets tonight. We'll hear from Scott Arniel, Josh Morrissey. But, the biggest news that we'll get to with Reem right off the bat, Bones is back in the NHL. I'll be honest, I got a text right after we got off the show yesterday from a friend of mine that I will say is not, he's not like me, does not have X, doesn't have Instagram, is not always on social media. And he texted me, Bones is back in CBJ? I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Is this real? And then went and checked it and made sure that the sites were real. I was absolutely blown away. But I'm fired up. The NHL is a better place with Rick Bowness in it. I will say that. He's got just a deal for the rest of this year to come in and see how it goes. Pretty interesting move by Columbus. Don Waddell hired Dean Evison last year. By all accounts, did a great job in making Columbus very competitive last season. They're dealing with a lot in that market, similar to some other small markets, Winnipeg included. They're a 500 team this year, 19-19-7. Unfortunately for them, that gets them last in the East. The threshold for the top teams and the bottom teams very different in the West than it is in the East right now. But we'll get to that. John Hodge is going to join us. CFL GM meetings taking place. We're going to talk Taylor Elgersma as well as the future of the Blue Bomber offensive line. And then our pal Pat Gregoire is going to join us coming in. By the way, big congrats to Greg, who was our big winner last night in the Coolbet Costa Rica poker final. Epic showdown at the end between YWG Derek and Greg, and it was back and forth, a big comeback, but only one man was standing. It's Greg. He's going to Costa Rica, so we'll look forward to seeing you there. Congratulations, and thanks to everyone that joined us. We'll have some more great poker promos in the future, and we'll get back to our normal game of the month. Maybe we'll even do a couple in February, considering the fact that the NHL is down and the hockey games and everything will be going next week. But stay tuned. If you haven't played before, would love to have you join us. And congratulations to everyone that made the final, and of course Greg, who took it down. Big thanks to all of our sponsors. I mentioned Coolbet. Pat's going to join us a little later on. Of course, the Winnipeg Jets. If you want to plan to join us, we broke the streak. The WST crew broke the streak on Friday night. Our next game with the WST crew is the Habs game. Final game before the Olympic break, Wednesday, February 4th. Go to winnipegjets.com/WST to grab your tickets for that. Also want to thank, of course, Princess Auto, Chud's Power Sports, Clean Line. We'll get to the Clean Line lines for Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical in a minute. Of course, the St. B Mega Millions Lottery, Uptown Alley, Rolly's Transfer, St. Mattel Dental Center and Canadian Club, Boston Pizza, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug, and we'll get to a why not question of the day for Not Autocorp over at Waverly and McGillivray. Welcome to everybody in chat. See people giving T. Will a bit of a hard time. Steelers smothered by the Texans defense last night. Maybe we'll have some time for that a little later on. But T. Will has said, I think I understand us is a lot better now. I woke up this morning with a sore throat and a bit of fever. Team flu is a real thing. Steelers flu. Hey, you know what? Credit to them. And whoa. Well, Remis, you may as well come in right in. Listen, we're going to get to Bones, but speaking of coaching news and people having some fun with T. Will, big Steelers fan. Did I just see that about Mike Tomlin? Did I read that correctly?
Yes, you did, Hustler. Here's Adam Schefter just a couple minutes ago. Breaking after a historic 19-season run in Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin just informed his team that he is stepping down as the Steelers head coach. Sources tell Jay Fowler, ESPN, and me, the Steelers now will be looking for only their fourth head coach since 1969. Insane statistic that they've only had 3 head coaches.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck Noll for all those years, Bill Cowher, into Mike Tomlin, each one of them winning a championship. And, you know, it's interesting that, you know, we have this breaking news about Tomlin just to start off the show as we getting to talk about Rick Bowness. In that I really do think that, you know, Mark Chipman and True North have always looked to the Steelers as, you know, a prototype organization of stability, consistency, and I have to admit it's interesting that Mike Tomlin has stepped down as the head coach because many people felt that he was going to be fired. Many people thought that they would never fire Mike Tomlin. And while we're talking about Bones, it kind of reminds me of Winnipeg's previous head coach before Bones and Paul Maurice. And you remember how ugly things were getting for the Jets that season and how they were playing through December. And it really did feel like maybe Paul Maurice was going to get fired, and yet he didn't get fired. He just resigned. Now, I don't know whether we'll ever hear whether this was a way to, you know, have Paul be able to kind of go out on his sword a little bit and, you know, kind of take it on himself. Sounds a little bit better to be resigning than it is to be fired. I'm not sure we'll never know that, but it is for an organization that wanted to be like the Pittsburgh Steelers in a lot of ways, it's sort of eerily similar that it seems like an incredibly respected and successful veteran coach sort of felt that the time was up and has moved on. That's some wild news to start off the show.
Yeah, as you mentioned, they've only had 3 head coaches in history, so it will be weird seeing someone else. And that game last night was at Pittsburgh's 5th loss in the playoffs in a row. And for a team that's been, you know, just squeaking into the playoffs for a while, looking for a change. So, yeah, that's the breaking news off the top. But we did have some coaching news yesterday. The Rick Bowness, I mean, my dad's texting me, hey, Rick Bowness back in the NHL. So, you know, you thought that he was retired. Sounds like he wasn't really looking for a job. But if the phone rings, you answer it. And he did. And it's like, yeah, I can take this opportunity here for 4 months. And then they'll go from there.
What did you think when you heard the news?
I screamed. I was like, whoa. It was just like... It's like one of those things. Good thing my wife wasn't home, because whenever I have that reaction to like sports news, she's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, some coach, you know, came back." She's like, "Oh, I don't care about that. I thought it was something like legitimate, like family
like
related,
real world stuff."
Yeah, real world stuff. So I was very surprised, because that's the first coach firing of the year, and usually it happens earlier, and the change in Columbus not going well. Some high expectations. And it was funny because that clip was floated around. Connor tweeted out of Bowness and Dean Evison fighting when they were coaching the Jets in the Wild. And now Rick Bowness just took his job.
Yeah, that little bit of interesting irony was not lost on many, and Connor did a great job on popping that out on the interwebs. He's going to join us a little later on. We'll tee up tonight's game and get his thoughts on all of that. Yeah, I mean, like, huge news out of Columbus that Rick Bowness is back. I think it means a little bit more here. He was and always will be, I think, an incredibly beloved individual. I mean, he's a hockey lifer. He's a guy that legitimately has connections to pretty much everyone in the National Hockey League with how long he's been doing it. And we thought he was done. He's been having some fun with Biz and the boys on TNT and doing some sports network, I believe, as well for Hockey Night in Canada. But he's back behind the bench. You just can't keep him away from it. He spoke today quickly. We'll get to the Jets in a minute, but let's just quickly hit on this Bones stuff. Here's Bones on taking the job in Columbus and been behind the bench tonight against the Flames.
No, listen, I really appreciate the opportunity that Don and the Columbus Blue Jackets organization have given me. Was I out looking for a job? Absolutely not. I wasn't. I was quite content with what we were doing. Judy and I have a great life in Florida. We're enjoying that very much. We're getting to go see the kids, and I did a little work with TNT, so I enjoyed that. But throughout all that, Judy and I would always have conversations, and she'd always say, well, what's going to happen if someone calls? I said, they're not going to call. They're not going to call. Then we just said, okay, well, we'd have to consider it. But there's only a few teams that I would have come out of retirement to coach, and this is certainly one of them. I've always had a ton of respect for Don. I know that this team is really good. When you work in our league, man, you want to work for good people because this is a tough league, as we all know. You want to work with good people, which are here. Rick Nash and Chris Clark and the scouts and everyone here. But you also want to have a chance to win. That's the most important thing.
All right. I have a feeling, Remis, that there's a few more Winnipeg Jet fans that are going to be pulling for the Blue Jackets now in the East. Bones, by the way, looks great. Florida Bones he's been enjoying his time away from the game. Now, I'm not sure whether, does he have blonde hair now?
No, I think it's gray. Maybe it's the lighting. Maybe he does. Maybe he does have it. Does look a little light on this video here. He did note Don Waddell introducing him. I edited that, but he noted that he is in fact older than the GM of the Blue Jackets, Don Waddell. Rick Bowness, 70 years old, behind the bench. So awesome stuff for them. And yeah, I think there's some fans here who maybe moved over to the Blue Jackets after they acquired Patrick Laine and are still following them. And Columbus, Winnipeg, some similarities with the cities and the markets. But if you are looking for a team in the East with the Jets behind, well, Columbus also, I mean, they're 10th in the wild card ranking. So they're out of it, but only, 8 points out of a playoff spot. So we'll have to, 7 points? So we'll see how it goes for them.
7 back on Buffalo. Buffalo's got a game in hand. Sabres lost one yesterday, 4-3 to the Panthers. Panthers are also on the outside looking in.
They are.
Man, that wild card race is just so nuts right now. Philly's in the 3rd spot in the Metropolitan with 52 points. The Leafs are in. Big win for the Leafs last night in Colorado in OT. Austin Matthews is on fire. So the Leafs are in at 53. The Sabres have the 2nd wild card at 52. Then there's Washington at 52, Boston at 52, Pittsburgh at 51, Florida at 51. So 6 teams within 1 point of each other. 1 in a wild card and 1 in third place in the Metropolitan Division. Much like the Jets, though, a long, long ways to go and a lot of teams to pass for Bones and the Blue Jackets. Here's just one more from Bones, just talking about what he's taken over and the roster he's inheriting with the Jackets.
And when I look at the roster, and I did see a few of their games during the year, I looked at that team and said, I think I could help that team. They're better than their record shows. And listen, every team has had their injuries, and every team has been set back by their injuries, and that's certainly affected this squad. But I did feel that Columbus is one of the teams I honestly feel I could help. So I'm here, and I've got a great staff with me here. And listen, I have a ton of respect for Dean. Trust me, last year, if anyone had asked me, no one asked me, but if anyone asked me for my coach of the year, I would have given it to Dean. Yeah, he deserved it for what the job that they did. But I sit here today. I'm very proud to be here today. I'm very proud to be part of the Columbus organization. And we're going to do some things to get this thing back on track. Great leadership. The only player in that room I've coached is Monty. And have had a great rapport with him. So honestly, I'm really looking forward to this challenge, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
All right, so there is Rick Bowness back in the NHL with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, the Jets, I guess the Columbus home game, that happened earlier this year,
yeah,
right?
They go to Columbus, so the Columbus doesn't come. That's the first thing that you look when you hear that. Like, when's Columbus coming? I imagine they would have a tribute for Rick Bowness here or something like that. And
oh, man, absolutely. Yeah. It would have been a welcome back Bones in a big way. So, yeah, the Jets at Columbus on April 4th. That'll be a Hockey Night in Canada game, I'd imagine. 6 o'clock Central on Saturday night. Sure, Arniel will be out there getting a chance to see Bones. Maybe we'll do a roadie for that. I'm not sure we'll be very busy after the 16th of April this year. Anyways, that was a huge story yesterday right after we finished the show. We knew people would want to talk about that. I'm fired up and wish Bones well. But Remo, we're back at it tonight. With the Jets taking on the New York Islanders. Not surprisingly, down at the rink today, though, the talk of Bones returning was everywhere. Scott Arniel was asked about his old pal Bones being back in the league, hired by Columbus. This is what Arnie had to say on that.
We've talked here in the last little bit. I think he was pretty surprised when he got the call. I think everybody's surprised about certainly what happened there, but we chatted about it. He asked me my opinion, and certainly the biggest thing for him is just talked about his health, how good he feels, how good Judy feels. They've just felt that they got away and both got healthy, and he's a lifer. I think he's a lifer coach, and an opportunity to step in and help a group. I guess change his nickname to the Fixer, anyway. So no, he just felt really comfortable in his health and where both him and Judy are at, and just decided to take another shot at it.
He certainly is the Fixer. We know the job that he did here in Winnipeg, and he'll be tasked with I'm not sure how similar of a job, but a mid-season resuscitation of the Columbus Blue Jackets. By the way, pretty cool outfit that Arnie was rocking there today for the Military Appreciation Night tonight. Interesting, very cool look. Anyways, here's Arnie. You can see that. He's got Arniel. They got their names on it, too. Interesting. I wonder if the rest of the players have those as well. The General Scott Arniel leading the team into this game tonight against the New York Islanders. Here's Arnie on just if he's been keeping touch and talking to Rick Bowness lately.
I don't know if we've missed a month in the last 2 years where we haven't chatted. Whether I'm calling him or he's calling me, he's telling me about his golf game, or he's It just, we talk all the time, and he sees stuff. He'll phone me about something he sees two other teams playing, and he was working for the media, so I thought there was a little he was looking for inside scoops, but no, but he was still like, that's why I'm not overly surprised that he's going into Columbus, that he's been doing some TV, but he's watching games all the time, and critiquing things, and he's a close friend, and so that's something we've done prior to even us working together. We're always in constant communication.
All right, so there's Coach Arniel on Rick Bowness. Now, that's a big story around the league. The big story here in Winnipeg is to see if the Jets can build off 2 straight wins on the weekend after that miserable 11-game losing streak and continue to move in a positive direction. It is the Islanders. It'll be a formidable test. They've been very good this year. I mentioned right off the top of the show, for fans, we'll get a chance to see brilliant rookie Matthew Schaefer. Here's what Arnie had to say about tonight's visitors, the New York Islanders, from the morning skate.
Yeah, it's been like one after the other, the opposite, right? We've been going against speed, and then we're going against some, sort of heavy groups, and the Islanders are in that category. Obviously, they're playing, some good hockey, and they're getting wins, and they're right in the middle of that thick of things in the East there, and getting great goaltending. So another challenge for us, and getting these heavy games, like I've always said, that you got to do it more than they try to do it. You got to play on the inside. You can't get caught on the outside, and it's a grind. We saw them earlier in the year, when won in their building. So it's something that we need to build off that last couple of games here where we've gotten points, and do what we need to do tonight.
All right, Coach Scott Arniel on the Islanders. Now, all eyes in the building will be on Matthew Schaefer. Here's what Arnie had to say about the star rookie for the visitors tonight.
Certainly. I know there's a lot of really good forwards in the league right now. I wasn't sure how he started, and when he got going right off the bat, sometimes it might have been the first 10, 15, 20 games. Maybe it was just the spark was there, the flash was there, and then teams caught on to him, but that hasn't stopped, and that's why he's the real deal. He's still doing it. He's lugging big ice. He's playing against the other team's top lines. He's playing against heavy players. Teams are trying to knock him off his game by being physical against him, and nothing seems to faze him. But just his ability to get in the rush, a lot like McCarr when he came in. He was both leading rushes and chasing, beating people back up the ice. You're kind of seeing that with this kid, and so we certainly have to know where he is all the time.
So there's Scott Arniel on Matthew Schaefer, who's making his debut tonight in the Canada Life Center. Quick injury update. Obviously, Neil Pionk has been hampered as of late. Colin Miller went on IR yesterday with the call-up of Isaac Phillips. What's up with Hayden Fleury? Here's a quick injury update from the Jets infirmary.
Neil going to be okay for tonight? I know he wasn't out there for
secret. Top secret. That's top secret.
And you put Colin Miller on IR, so that's got to be at least a week. But do you have any more update on his status?
Yeah, we're just going to go. We're day to day here. Just obviously he's not available for the next 3 games, but we'll just kind of see where we are. He's got to get some feel by the end of the week here, see what he needs to do and what more needs to be done.
And Hayden would also still be in that kind of day to day category.
Yeah, he hasn't even touched the ice really, so that's still the next step for him.
All right, so no Fleury, no Miller, and Pionk did not skate this morning, but it was Gustav Nyquist along with Dylan Sandberg. I think it's safe to assume that Gus Nyquist will not be playing on the second defense pair today. So let's assume Neil Pionk is in. Let's get to the clean line lines for tonight's game. For the Jets and Islanders, brought to you by Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, your local leader for over 40 years and the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets, captain-approved 24/7 emergency service all year long. Clean Line has your back. Connor Scheifele, Iafallo, Perfetti, Taves, and Velarde. That line was certainly the Jets' top line in the game against New Jersey on Sunday. Nice weekend for Perfetti with 4 points, Taves with a couple goals. As we talked about with Mike, not the best night for the Connor Scheifele line. Alex Iafallo did score, I believe, on the power play. Niederreiter Lowry, Nemetsnikov, Koepke, and Pearson on the wings with Danny Zhilkin, the rookie, on the Jets' fourth line. The defense is Morrissey and DeMello, Sandberg, and expecting Neil Pionk. But as you said, we've got a little asterisk there because he wasn't out there for the morning skate. Big Stan and Luke Shen, the Jets' third pairing. We'll talk about Luke Shen and some of these trade rumors that have been around him with Dave Pagnotta coming up in just a couple of minutes. Connor Hellebuck expected to get the start for the Jets tonight against the New York Islanders. 7 o'clock puck drop, TSN 3 with Kevin and Dan with the broadcast. And, of course, Paul Edmonds will have the call over on 680 CJOB. All right, Pagnotta's going to join us in a few minutes. Do want to thank our friends at Uptown Alley for their partnership here on WST. Folks, now throughout these winter months, looking for a spot to bring the kids, get together with friends and family, maybe do a bit of a corporate outing. Nowhere better to do that than Uptown Alley at 1301 St. Matthews. If you've never been into the new Uptown Alley, you really need to see it to believe it. I mean, 5-pin lanes, 10-pin lanes, an amazing arcade, tons of fun carnival-style games where you win tickets that can be exchanged for prizes that you can take home, and amazing hospitality, as in great food, amazing drink options, and great areas to have your group sort of separated from the rest of the crowd. If you haven't been to Uptown Alley, get on down there. They've got a great bowl and play special every day after 9 p.m., $20.49 for 90 minutes of bowling and a $10 arcade card. And if you're thinking about doing a birthday party, a group outing, a corporate event, just give them a call at 488-000 or go online to uptownalley.ca. Let them know the activities that you want to do, what you want to eat, any add-ons. And the Uptown Alley folks and their event staff will take care of it all for you and set it up for a great day on the lanes. Uptown Alley, 1301 St. Matthews, online at uptownalley.ca. We are into the new year. Many of you will be planning a move this year. And if you are moving, take as much of the stress out of it as possible with our friends over at Roley's Transfer. Family owned and operated for over 60 years and the most trusted name in the moving business. Check out their site at roleys.com. If you click on request an estimate, put in that promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies, and then let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Roley's will take care of it all, turn it around quickly with a great quote, and get you locked in for the white glove service and treatment that Roley's has been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Roley's, the most trusted name in the game. Find out more today at roleys.com. We'll see whether there's more smiles leaving the building tonight after potentially a third straight Jet win after that 11-game losing streak. I can tell you that if you need your smile worked on or it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, our friends at St. Vital Dental Center would love to take care of you and your families as they've been doing for generations of Winnipeggers. Now with a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's with state-of-the-art equipment and convenient free parking right behind the building, St. Vital Dental Center handles clients from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups all the way to things like dental implants. They really can do it all. Check them out online at stviteldental.ca. Make an appointment and say hi to Dr. Terry and his great staff from your friends at Winnipeg Sports Talk. And just before we bring in Dave Pagnotta, a big thanks to Canadian Club, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Canadian Club is the iconic, original Canadian whiskey since 1848. Available at your local Manitoba liquor marts, and it won't be too long before we're sipping CC and ginger ales at Princess Auto Stadium for the upcoming Winnipeg Blue Bombers season. While you're at it, at ELC or at beer stores, keep your eyes out for remaining stock of that limited edition Canadian Club Cranberry Ginger Ale that was such a hit over the holidays, still available in limited quantities at beer stores and liquor marts throughout Manitoba. All right, we've got lots to talk about with our next guest, Dave Pagnotta of the Fourth Period. Pags joins us now from the road, it seems. What's going on, Dave? How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, just on the road this week, bouncing around a few different spots. Going to be in Vegas. When is it? Thursday for Marner Fest. Mitch Marner's first game as a Golden Knight against the Leafs. I'll be there, then off to LA afterwards. So just bouncing around right now. It's that time of year. It's a crazy month in the NHL. So gone 10 days, home for 6, gone for another 7 before the Olympic break. So
were you in Denver last night for that Leafs Avs game?
No, I wasn't. Wasn't there. They had a nice OT win against the Avs, snapping their streak. Then they got Utah tonight before they make way to Vegas. The Knights play the Kings tomorrow in LA. Then they got the back-to-back at home against Toronto. So a lot of bouncing around. Do some Team Canada stuff here today in Calgary. So get that, then NHL action, and then just it's a jammed month rather.
No doubt about it. Hey, listen, I want to get to some Jets topics with you in a minute, but how about Bones back behind the bench? I mean, that was that really did seem like it was a shocker. I mean, a lot of things, worked on, we think are possibilities. I don't know if anyone had Bones coming out of the broadcast booth with TNT to join up with the Blue Jackets. No,
I don't think anybody anticipated the Jackets making a change right now. But it was relative short order. Donnie Waddell decided basically the day before that he was going to make that change on Sunday over the weekend. And then had that conversation with Rick, and he comes in, and he's their guy for the season. It's not an interim tag. He is the full head coach, but I think there's an option for next season. They'll figure out how the rest of the season plays out and how he meshes. But, he gets back there and already spoke this morning about how he has to instill more responsibility in the team's game. They have to be more sound defensively. So already kind of tweaking a few things after his first, I guess, full practice, sort of. They play Calgary tonight.
He really is the fixer. You think about the job that he did in Winnipeg, and Scott Arniel referred to him as such today before the game tonight. I'll just say this, and I said it off the top of the show, NHL, a lot more fun place with Bones involved on a daily basis behind the bench. So we'll wish him well. Let's bring things back to the Winnipeg Jets. Thank God. And it was great. It was our WST game of the month. We had a big crew at the arena on Friday night, and the streak was mercifully over. The team got 2 wins on the weekend, which was nice. That hadn't happened in a long time, really since the middle of November, winning back-to-back games.
Yep. And
they hadn't won since December 13th. So, I mean, it was a much-needed win for the team, for the fan base, frankly, for the city. They still sit in a very unenviable position when it comes to the playoff race after, what that 2-month stretch did to them. We've seen you reporting at this point, and it's not surprising. We're starting to hear Jet names being out there. Luke Schenn at the top of the list. Is he trying to get off the ship right now? What's going on with Luke?
Yeah, I mean, look, the more L's pile up, the harder it's going to be to climb back into it and shorten that gap that's already been decently widened to this point. With Luke Schenn, look, he was scratched a few times. Team's not doing well. They're in the middle of this whole, that whole streak, that losing streak. And my understanding is he wants to go to a contender. Obviously not the case right now. In Winnipeg, the way the Jets are playing, but we know there are a lot of deficiencies in this roster. Now, I think the Jets are going to be in both a buyer's and a seller's market leading up to the trade deadline. I don't think they're buying any short-term fixes. They're not doing what Chevy's not doing what he did last year and the year before, bringing in rental guys and trying to chase a championship. Different this time around because of the lack of secondary scoring. It's not just going to be visible now. It's going to be visible in, next season and on if they don't address it. So my understanding is that they want to address it. They want to bring in somebody that can fit and build with this core, but has secondary scoring elements. So basically second line player, whether it's at the dot or on the wing, I think they're open to either option. Because of how this season is playing out, the urgency to improve it's there, but it isn't, if that makes sense, because where they're situated, potentially if they end up in the bottom 5 spot and end up with a top 5 pick, they may be able to escalate the need or the search rather by filling one of those voids with potentially adding a top 6 player there. But that's one part of the equation. The other is Schenn. The other is Logan Stanley. It's a few others. Even though I believe they've had conversations with Stanley's camp on an extension, there are a lot of teams that are interested in this player, not only for his capabilities, but also his cap hit. Very favorable. Schenn's got 2.75. Logan Stanley's at 1.25, I believe, million. So we'll probably start to hear that a little bit more, but also the discussion of an extension is on the table too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Stan has had a great year. It's such a unique situation in that the team has put so much in to developing Logan Stanley.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They've had a level of patience that a lot of teams would not have had. And, it took a long time, but he actually has played clearly the best hockey of his career.
Yep.
He's added an offensive side to his game. And let's face it, big 6'7" defensemen with reach like that, that have a bit of a tough side to them, although not a killer by any stretch of the imagination, are very much in demand heading into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot just with the situation the Jets have been in on this program as to, what are the assets the Winnipeg Jets have. And I mean, I do understand they would certainly have the conversation about some sort of an extension with Stan. But, for a guy that is having the season that he has on the edge of going to UFA, you would think that might be difficult to get done. So from my perspective, Dave, they have to do one of two things. Sign him before the trade deadline or he's gone.
Yeah.
How valuable an asset do you think Logan Stanley might be on the open market, considering what he brings to the table and the amount of teams that would be interested in adding a player like that at this time of the year?
There would be a lot of interest. I think there is a lot of interest. And it's not just, again, the capabilities on the ice. It's his $1.25 million cap hit. For a lot of these teams that are, either up against it or have limited space or want to make 2 moves, bring in somebody to shore up the depth of the D, and then also bring in some mid-6 forward, for example, type thing. If you could bring in a guy that fits one of those voids and his cap hit's only 1.25, you're in good shape. He's that much more attractive. It's similar to Kiefer Sherwood with the Vancouver Canucks. Offensive capabilities, power forward, can throw the body around. He's got a $1.5 million cap hit. That's a trifecta right there. From Logan Stanley's perspective, he has the physicality. He's been better, as you said, overall defensively, a little bit more offensive this season, and he's got that sweetheart cap hit. So there would be a lot of interest leading up to it. I wonder if they're not going to try to hammer something out now. Maybe they use the Olympic break to do that in terms of a contract, and if they can't figure that out, then they explore moving him. I don't think they're punting on the season just yet, but and Schenn aside, because that's a little bit of a separate scenario because of just his where he's at in his career. I think they're going to explore that. I believe they've already had some discussions with Logan Stanley, a little bit different. And I think after the Olympic break as well, not just with him, I believe there's 2 or 3 other players that are on expiring deals that can hit UFA status. I think they'll have those conversations too if they don't go on a bit of an uptick here.
Well, I'm with you. And, we heard from Cheveldayoff at the beginning of last week and spent a lot of time talking about where the team goes from here,
Yep.
On a season that kind of looked lost at the halfway point. And, bottom line is, through all those struggles, I think that if there was a market for any of those guys, they probably would have been moved in December when the team was really struggling. And you look at January, and this is, we see Tanner Pearson score on the weekend. He's one of those guys on UFA deals. He is playing. Schenn's back in the lineup tonight. Gustav Nyquist has 0 goals on the season and remains in the press box right now. I mean, to me, the month of January from a Jets perspective is to you're praying and hoping that a few of these guys turn around and get hot for a little bit, and you can maybe resuscitate a little bit of a market for some of the pieces that they've been more than willing to trade and open up some spots for other players in the organization to show what they can do down the stretch of a season that they're probably not going to be playing in playoff contention.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be part of it. Just plan-wise, it's just later, like March and April is effectively what that is going to look like. Because there are going to be bodies that are going to be moved. And assuming this is such a high compete month because of everything being condensed, and it's not just for the Jets, it's for every team, that you could fall behind the 8 ball pretty quickly in the next week or 2 or 3, right before the Olympic break. They're already behind enough as it is. If they can't make ground, then I think they go in those directions. Now, to your point of not making moves earlier or not making moves in December, I think the league as a whole was still, there were a lot of conversations, but nobody acted because everybody was so, well, we think we're this team. We're not sure yet. We think we're that team. We got to figure it out and go from there. The league is so condensed competitively, forget about the schedule, that teams are still trying to figure out exactly who they were and don't want to make any type of moves to mess up whatever it is that they're trying to do. But now you get to a point where we're past the halfway mark. You're seeing the bridge becoming a little bit further to reach for some clubs, and other teams going, all right, we know what we've got now. We know we can turn this up. We need to, acquire X, Y, and Z. And now you're going to start to see those discussions starting to expand and kind of go from there. Now, it takes 1 or 2 moves. Like, are we waiting for Vancouver and Sherwood, who's now hurt and was supposed to be day-to-day, but then Adam Foote says he's a week, maybe 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens there. But everyone's kind of just waiting for now one maybe domino to fall. And that could have a little bit of a trickle effect for some of these other clubs. And if you're, if you're the Jets or a fan of the Jets even, you're looking at this season as an anomaly. You're going, look, we still believe in the core of this group. We know a couple holes we got to fill, and we'll be able to do this over the next 8 months going into October and getting ready for next season. It sucks the way the season's going, but again, the core is there, and you have an opportunity to fill some assets and regroup pretty quickly going into next season, especially if you end up with a top 5 pick. Yeah,
I'm expecting that this is going to go on for a while. And Stanley, listen, I'm sure there'd be some teams that, with his salary would jump on him now. I mean, most teams could fit in or figure out a way to make a $1.25 million player. But when you look at the other guys, Pearson, not as much. I think he's like $1 million. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the market is there for him. Nyquist, I mean, as I say, I think if there was a taker for Nyquist, that's happened. But when you look at players like Luke Shen at $2.75 million, Nito Niederreiter, who I think might have some interest around the league, he's, I believe, at $4 million. Would you agree it's far more likely that those guys get traded as close to the deadline as possible for the receiving teams, just because of the salary cap implications of bringing on those players earlier on in the year?
For some teams, yeah, it depends. For clubs that have more wiggle space, more cap space to play with, LA, for example, is looking for secondary scoring, and they've got 10 million plus in cap space at the moment. There are other teams that have strategized to give themselves more wiggle room and more to play with, but then you've got others that, well, they don't. So they're the ones that have to wait a little bit longer, like Tampa, for example, probably looking at depth type additions, and either a Shen or a Stanley would fit that back end from a depth side of it, but they want to be strategic in how they utilize their money and how they utilize their cap space. So I think it's both. I think, to be perfectly honest, it's going to take 1, maybe 2 moves to really get the ball rolling here, because as other teams start to see activity pick up, they know there's a competition for some of these players. They don't want to be held with nothing at the end of it, and they don't want to overpay and try to be forced to overpay closer to deadline time. So there is definitely, an advantage to making that type of move now. Plus, with the Olympic break, you allow players to be a little bit more acclimated and have it as an easier transition to their new surroundings for that to happen end of January, beginning of February.
Dave, as far as Shen goes, the Jets paid a steep price to get him last year. And
Yeah.
it's even worse now because that second round pick could be 33, 34, 35, depending on, what happens the rest of the way. What is an ask from the Winnipeg Jets for the services of Luke Schenn? And what can realistically be expected to be coming back if they do decide to move on from him?
I would imagine they would ask for the second or a second to recoup one. Might be getting a third. That's like something like that. I don't think this isn't a scenario where, you're looking at a 5th, 6th round pick, a low pick, just to recoup something. There is a lot of value in the player still, his experience, what he's done, what he's won, and that cap hit as well. So I think depending on how the market plays out, that'll obviously dictate how the price fluctuates. I would imagine the ask, and I don't know this definitively, but I would imagine for that caliber player, you're asking for a second. If you get it, awesome, but be prepared for a third, which will likely be a late third.
It's so funny after all the discourse of Logan Stanley over the time here in Winnipeg. I think the return, if Stan is traded, I think the return is going to blow people away for the amount of teams. I would be surprised if they do move on from him. I think depending on who the trade piece is or the trade partner is, they would absolutely be asking for a first round pick, I would think. And I wouldn't be surprised if the market is there, maybe, and then some.
That they could ask certainly for it. I would imagine that the price tag, if it gets paid, is second round pick and another asset. Would be my guess, because a lot of teams are starting, like a lot of the contenders have moved on from their first round picks, going back to even last season.
Big time. Almost there is a long list of teams that they'd love to do that, and then you look at what they have left, and it ain't much.
No, exactly. Like there's no first round pick in Tampa. There's no first round pick in Dallas. I think Colorado doesn't have theirs. Toronto doesn't have theirs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of those teams, they've already moved them out. Vegas, they moved them out. So you're looking at probably second round pick and prospect or an additional asset to be the ultimate return if they end up moving Logan Stanley. That would be my guess. And for players of that caliber, because some of the other teams, they've stockpiled some of these picks. Carolina's got an extra one. Boston's got an extra one. Like, there are some options available, but some of these other clubs have moved out some of their picks. So you're going to have to be a little bit strategic. And I think league-wide, we're going to see some of these moves that get made closer to deadline and around deadline time, and maybe close to the Olympic freeze. You're going to see more, I would imagine, prospects being included in deals than we've seen normally in the past, because a lot of the first round picks have already been moved, and a lot of teams that have them want to hold on to them. Chicago, they'd like to add another one if they can. So we'll see kind of how that goes, and which teams become a little bit more aggressive. But I think we'll see more prospects than normal get moved out between now and the deadline.
I've got the list here, and the top half of the draft is mainly teams with their picks. But Chicago's got Florida's pick.
Yep.
The Sharks have Edmonton's pick. Boston has the Leafs pick. Vancouver has the Wild's pick. That'll be from the Quinn Hughes trade.
Yep.
The Rangers have the Stars pick. Calgary's got Vegas's pick. Seattle has Tampa's pick. And then the Islanders also have the 32nd pick right now of the Colorado Avalanche. Moving from trade market to just scuttlebutt, on a scale of 1 to 10, how big is the mess in Ottawa right now, Dave?
Well, optically it looks bad. It looks really, really bad.
Yeah.
Whether all that stuff is true or not, the spotlight that's been, put on it is big. Now, even before any of that stuff came out and any of that speculation was out there, there was a lot of talk around the league that the relationship between, and I've mentioned this last week as well, the relationship between the goalie and the team has been strained. And this is, something you've heard around Ullmark in previous years with different clubs. as well. And clearly, they mentioned, I think it was either Tim Stutzla or Brady Tkachuk had mentioned that he's away for the team for personal reasons, but it's related to some type of mental health issue. One of those guys mentioned something like that. I don't know what it is, but that's what they said. And, you want to give them as much space as you can. You got to respect that. But because of the light that was just put on all that social media crap, it's that stuff affects the room. And Brady talked about it too. It's not a matter of coming after me. Go after the players. They'll take it. They'll take all the BS because that's what they signed up for. It's the families that didn't. So when you've got to deal with wives, girlfriends, and kids, because these kids are on social media as much as anybody, that's when things get personal, and that's when guys get really, really agitated. So I understand why they wanted to put out a statement in terms of just making sure that the players know that the organization has their back. But overall, it's not been great. And the best way to fix all of this right now definitely is winning. And the Sens definitely need to get back on track here because they expected to be a playoff team this year. They've regressed. And I think unexpectedly because they thought they were taking some steps forward.
The Linus Ullmark thing is one of the most baffling situations I can remember in that, he's on personal leave. Mm-hmm. He's not in, the program or anything like that.
Right. And
I was talking to one of the guys from TSN in Ottawa. He was at the last two games sitting in the 400 level.
Yep.
I've never heard anything like that before in my life.
Yeah, and again, we don't know what the actual issue is, and if it is mental health related, and there's no quick fix for any of that, and there's no defined way of going about it. So he's clearly dealing with something, and doesn't look like. I think there was a report over the weekend that he's going to be back with the team at some point this season, but there's also no defined timeline, which is why they brought in James Reimer. To help short things out between the pipes for the time being. But we don't know, and the team doesn't realistically know either, when Linus is going to be coming back.
Hey, quickly on the way out, Braden Point hurt. What are we hearing about that, and could that affect his Olympic participation, and who's up next up if that is the case?
Yeah, well, that's what they're going to try to figure out, and I'd imagine know this week what an appropriate timeline is going to be for him. Obviously affects the Bolts and John Cooper being the head coach. He'll have to make that determination. If Point is done and that timeline projects well into next month, which is the Olympics, yeah, they've got to make a decision on who they want to bring in. And it's going to be a combo of coaching and management to determine who's in. Like, is it Connor Bedard? If you want to bring in somebody that can play center and also be slotted on the wing, which is effectively Braden Point, do you want to bring in somebody that can supplement that offense, or do you want to bring in somebody that's more two-way, or does this mean more responsibility for a Nick Suzuki, for example, whereas you bring in somebody with a little bit more offensive capabilities and jam? That's what they're going to have to figure out, and that'll be collective. Now, one thing that Doug Armstrong said was when they reached out to players who were going to be on their reserve list, that they had options. So it wasn't like one player's down, then it's next man up. It's the type of player, and we've got groupings for what types of players, two options each, for example, of a two-way guy, an offensive guy, a stay-at-home D, a offensive runner on that back end, a puck mover kind of thing, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know who's on what list, but I would imagine they've got, again, two guys at least that fit each category. So next man up from that perspective shouldn't be overly difficult for them. But I got to imagine a guy like Bedard, I think he was out last night with an illness, is going to be under some consideration.
What about Scheifele? I mean, Scheifele, and I know Scheifele's still in the protocol. He would have to be a guy that would be in that conversation.
I would imagine too. Because again, at an Olympic level, you're a center. Awesome. You want the center depth, but at the same time, you can slot him on the wing, which has happened internationally before, and there's familiarity there. So again, they have options. It's just a matter of what type of player are they looking for stylistically that fits the mold of this group. John Cooper's going to have a big say in that.
Dave, great stuff as always. Have a fun week on the road. I'm sure that that scrum on Thursday in Sin City is going to be something else.
I'm going to sit back and just watch all of Toronto media just going nuts and pouncing all over Mitch Marner. He's lucky he's on a back-to-back because there's no skate on Thursday morning, so he'll have to deal with the postgame.
Have a great one, pal. Thanks for doing this.
You got it, buddy. Take care.
That's Dave Pagnotta at the fourth period on X. He and our pal Dennis Bernstein all over the National Hockey League, and he's been one of the guys with the most action tweets as it pertains to Luke Shen and his potential future as a trade chip. But we'll get to more tonight's game and everything else happening with Connor Hrabchak in just a minute. But folks, as we told you yesterday, it is game on for the St. Boniface Mega Million Choices Lottery. Went out to the launch last week with got a chance to see Bob Irving. He's going to join us on the show tomorrow, one of the spokespersons for it. And listen, there's millions to win and a great cause to support. And Bob, of all people, can tell you about the incredible work that's done through his many trips to the St. Boniface Hospital over the course of the years. Tickets are now on sale, and you can order your tickets online at stbmegamillionchoices.ca. You can also get them by phoning 204-256-7203. You can get it in person at London Drugs, St. Vital Center, and Polo Park, and Red River Co-ops, food stores, as well as the St. Boniface Hospital Foundation in the Everett Atrium as well. Now, there's 6 grand prize options, including home packages in Manitoba and Vancouver Island worth over $1.5 million or $1.25 million tax-free cash. There's more early winners than ever, though, which is why I encourage you, if you're going to get a ticket and support this great cause, do it now. Over $490,000 in early prizes and 42 early winners. Now, in addition to the homes and the $1.25 million grand prize, the early bonus, we got the winter bonus right now. And that deadline is on the 29th. So get in right now on it. Ford Escape, 26 Ford Escape ST Line Elite, or $40,000 cash, or a $40,000 travel voucher plus $10,000 cash. 4 winner shop winners of a $5,000 shopping spree at St. Vital Center, CF Polo Park, or the Outlet Collection, or $5,000 travel voucher, or $45,000 cash. Now, there's also the ultimate bonus. There's some incredible prizes, $75,000 cash, or a Mitsubishi Outlander, a Chevrolet Silverado, or a Genesis electrified GV70 Proceed. 8 ultimate shop winners of $5,000 shopping sprees, or $4,500 cash. But get this, and this is the one, I'm getting a couple extra tickets because of this one, gang. The Ultimate World Cup Experience. A winner of tickets, hotel, and airfare for 2 to a 2026 World Cup soccer game in Vancouver, plus $2,000 cash, or $9,000. And of course, all the early bird winners, 27 in total, worth $280,000. There's also the 50-50 plus and the Big Score plus additional opportunities to support the St. Boniface Hospital and win some great prizes. So get on it now, gang. StBMegamillionsChoices.ca, megamillionchoices.ca. There's a toll-free number as well, 1-855-256-7203. And we're going to have Bob on the show tomorrow. We'll talk a little Jets. We'll get his thoughts on the Bomber off season. We'll talk about why this is such an important cause to him. Again, StBMegamillionChoices.ca. Get your tickets now and get ready to win. Connor's coming up right away. Let me give a big shout out to our friends at Princess Auto for their support of WST. Of course, Princess Auto, really synonymous with Winnipeg. Founded here, headquartered here, and now serving Canadians coast to coast, but with 3 Manitoba locations to serve you, where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list, or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. So pop by and see him in store today or shop online and get those projects for 2026 going online at princessauto.com. Our friends at Chud's Power Sports are loving the winter so far. And if you haven't checked out Manitoba's Power Sports Superstore, what are you waiting for? They've got great snow day deals right now as we get into snowmobile season with up to $3,000 off select Polaris sleds right now. Great deals on Arctic Cats. And of course, ATVs, UTVs, ice houses with ice fishing season going on right now. Not to mention those amazing Argos and Sasquatch vehicles. Heck, you might be planning for spring and summer. Take a look at some of the amazing RVs they have. Get thinking about a boat for the spring. But right now, we are in the prime time of snowmobile season, and there's no better place than Chud's Power Sports in Gimli to help you get that perfect sled to make the most of our Manitoba winter. They've got it all. 80 years in business, the most trusted and respected staff you'll find anywhere in the province, and incredibly great deals 7 days a week. Right now, start the year in adventure with Chud's Power Sports in January, corner of Highway 8 and 231, and online at chudspowersports.com. And hey, speaking of those sleds, you're gonna need a battery for that. Now, if you're up in Gimli, of course, a great local business like Chud's Power Sports has Manitoba battery stock. And if you're in the city for all your battery needs, head on down to Dovercourt Drive or Logan Avenue and get the best prices in town on batteries for literally everything while shopping local and getting the best customer service from Donnie and his great staff at Manitoba Battery. Stop wasting time in the big box stores. Make it through winter without being that guy that's got to call your buddy for a boost because you're hooked up. Free battery testing at Manitoba Battery as well if you're wondering where your battery's at. And if you need one for your car, truck, or literally anything, you'll get the best price in town and you'll be shopping local at the same time. 2 Winnipeg locations, delivery citywide inside the perimeter. You can also order online at manitobabattery.com. All right, John Hodge is going to join us in about 20. But fresh back from the rink this morning at the morning skate, Connor Hrabchak joins us now. Connor, how you doing? Still on a high from the big win on the weekend for your Niners, I'd imagine?
Of course, Huss. Of course. Still on cloud 9. I mean, I tweeted out after the game, like George Kittle's probably my favorite 49er ever. And if you missed the game, he tore his Achilles. So that is like heartbreaking. But it would have been 10 times worse if the Niners lost that game and I lost my favorite player. But no, big win, still fired up.
Have you, just before we get to hockey, are you aware of this story and theory about all the injuries on the 49ers, that they have some electric station or something like beside their practice facility? And like I'd read that, I'm like, that's weird. And then of course you see Kittle go down and now even the players are talking about it. I don't have the article in front of me, but essentially there is a theory that the exposure that these players are getting by practicing there is creating an injury deficit for the Niners.
Yeah, it's the most puzzling thing ever. And Huss, it just speaks to how hurt this team has been, where it's like, we got to look at everything. Could it be this electric production plant or whatever right next door? But apparently there have been articles written that, you know, working near this kind of plant can like weaken tendons and all of these things. And don't you know it? The Winnipeg Jets, the San Francisco 49ers are in the top 5 of, you know, most injured teams year after year after year. And at that point, you got to look at everything. They've gone through multiple medical staffs. Like I don't think it's that. I mean, you could chalk it up to bad luck. It's football. There's going to be injuries. But yeah, this low frequency fields can degrade, weaken tendons. Like it's the most puzzling thing ever, Huss. But when you see the list of 49ers that Fred Warner's out for the season, Nick Bosa tore his ACL, George Kittle's torn his Achilles, like they are easily the most hurt team in the NFL this year and have been in years past. And it's like, at that point, I guess you got to look at everything. But at first I was like, yeah, no way. And then the injuries have just continued. I'm like, maybe we should look into this, guys. Maybe we should.
We get the X-Files on this.
Yeah.
Get them out there. Anyways, nice win.
Yep.
Tough matchup against the Seahawks in that rematch of Week 18, but we can get to that as we get closer to the weekend. First off, Bones back. That must have been a big topic down at the rink today.
It was. And we get to request players in the media that we talk to every day. We talked to Josh Morrissey today, who, attributes a lot of his offensive explosion to Rick Bowness, and Vladimir Mesikov, who has seemingly followed Rick Bowness around his entire career. So we talked to both of those players, and they're both over the moon for Rick Bowness being back. Back behind an NHL bench, and they weren't surprised by it. I mean, they know that he's the kind of guy that can't get away from the game. And Scott Arniel, we asked him about it as well. He said Bones was surprised to get the call from Columbus, but he asked for Scott Arniel's opinion on it. And, as Bowness said, that he feels healthy, Judy feels healthy. He feels like he's ready to go again. And yeah, it was absolutely a shock to me and clearly to a lot of people in Winnipeg, Huss, but he's the kind of guy that most games coached in NHL history. He's going to, coach for as long as he possibly can. And if that's another half season with the Columbus Blue Jackets, he's absolutely going to do it. And it kind of sucks. The Jets have already played the Jackets in Winnipeg this season. It would have been awesome if there was a game coming up this year where Bones would be back in Winnipeg. But they'll play the Blue Jackets. I believe it's April 4th. In Columbus. So that'll be great. And hopefully we get some good Bones moments. If it's just a half season, I mean, I don't know, but let's just say it's just the rest of this season with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I hope we get just a couple more classic pressers where he's ripping the team, or some slashed sticks on the bench when the ref makes a bad call or something. Just some classic Bones moments.
Well, what about some Bones moments on the bench? I mean, you did a great job of tweeting out ironically, the FU Fest with Mr. Evison back when he was with the Wild, and now, of course, he's taking his job. Remo, if you can, grab clip 7 here. Connor, you're just referring to talking to Josh Morrissey. This is the clip of Morrissey when asked what he thought about Bones getting the call from Seabus.
Yeah, I popped up on my phone there yesterday and just obviously texted with Bones a little bit later in the day. Yeah, I mean, obviously, know how much he loves the game, and obviously he's been a fixture in the NHL for so long, and obviously, I really enjoyed having him as a coach. So, it's what was nice to hear is, he's feeling really good and in a position where he feels he can come back and coach with this opportunity. So, excited for him, and but first and foremost, obviously, just happy he's in a great spot.
So there was Josh with the immediate reaction to Bones being hired. There's one more clip on Bones. Let's just play this and we'll talk about it. This is 9. Morrissey kind of looked back and spoke on Bonus's impact during his time here in Winnipeg with the Jets.
Bones sees the game in a special way, and he's got a special talent for connecting with his players and conveying that message. So it's pretty well documented. I love playing for him, and I think he really helped my career kind of go to another level and bring that out of me and other players, and consequently also our team. And so I think a lot of the things that he instilled in us those years are still with our team, and definitely value the time we had with Bones as our coach.
All right, so there is Josh Morrissey, and Connor, it is it was neat to see Bones kind of get another crack at it, even though we weren't expecting it. But it speaks to the work that he did, but also at the same point, we're thinking about the situation that the Jets are in right now and just how far off that they've gotten from really the work that Rick did, and then obviously the job that Scott Arniel and his staff did getting the team to a President's Trophy. But we got the wins on the weekend. The streak is over. Now we move into this game tonight. And listen, I'm not holding my breath on this, and I don't think most fans are, but it's very clear that if this team wants to have any sniff of realistically playing meaningful games and being in the playoff race come March and April, there's no time for losses, and they really need to start stacking them up. They get a chance to go for 3 in a row, and we haven't said that since the first month of the season. Tonight against a pretty good New York Islander team that's coming into town.
Yeah, Huss. And look, this Islanders team is one of, you talked about it earlier in the show, one of the many teams that's just right next to one another in the East and fighting for a playoff spot. It seems like every team in the East is just kind of around it. And a big reason for that has been Matthew Schaefer. We talked to Josh Morrissey down at the rink today, asked him about Matthew Schaefer, and he said, he's so dynamic and the things he's doing as an 18-year-old are remarkable. He also said the fact that Matthew Schaefer is only 18 is pretty scary. And he said he's been trying to watch as many Islanders games as possible because of Matthew Schaefer and kind of the emergence of him this season. So, usually in years past, a Tuesday night January game against the New York Islanders might not be a big draw, but coming to Canada Life Center tonight is one of the youngest, most dynamic players in the National Hockey League who is, a heavy favorite to win the Calder this year. So I'm super excited to watch Matthew Schaefer, one of those guys that was right on the bubble for Team Canada as well. And if there's injuries, maybe he'll get the call up. So Schaefer will be super interesting. As for the actual matchup, we spoke to Scott Arniel, and, this homestand, Huss, this is the end of a 5-game homestand. 2 of the games have been speed teams and the Oilers and the Devils. 2 of them have been heavy checking defensive style teams and the Kings and the Knights. Scott Arniel said it's going to be more like the heavy checking defensive style tonight against the New York Islanders rather than the speed game, but did admit that every time Matthew Schaefer's on the ice, he's got kind of that Makar to him where you got to watch him. He'll make his own speed and kind of play out of structure. But this Islanders team always prides himself on defense, very physical team. And Ilya Sorokin is having a great year for the Islanders. I didn't see if he's going to be the starter for the Islanders tonight, but they've been getting great goaltending regardless so far this season. So a tough matchup for the Jets, very defensive style game. And Matthew Schaefer, to me, worth the price of admission at only 18 years old, which, if you ask me, is also scary.
Yeah, I mean, as I said a couple times already, I'm excited to see. I'm pumped to be in the building tonight and get our first look at Schaefer. From a Jet standpoint, we and listen more over than yesterday. We weren't going to nitpick on the games on the weekend. Just the ex-Hale fans got the win. Actually, got 2. It was not a banner afternoon for the Connor Scheifele line against the New Jersey Devils. We talked about that with Mike. But, the latest development with the second line, far too late in coming. But Jonathan Toews has looked as good as he has at any point this season right now. And with that, Cole Perfetti is starting to get into a bit of a groove with 4 assists in his last 2 games. Thoughts on what we're seeing right now with those 2, along with Gabe Vilardi, who is, normally been up playing with Scheifele and Connor.
Yeah, the Jets finally have a second line, Huss. And you talked about it. Maybe it's too little too late as we can sit here going into, game 44 of the season tonight. But look, this Perfetti, Toews, Vilardi thing, they tried in a very small sample earlier in the year at a time where maybe Perfetti and Toews weren't playing as good as they are right now, and it didn't work at that time. But now they've got them back together. And like you said, yeah, Jonathan Toews, clearly this holiday break helped him, Huss, because coming out of the break, he looks fresher. He looks more explosive. He's in the right spots more often. He's not trailing the play as much. And I think that's really helping Cole Perfetti come along in his game as well. And we spoke to Perfetti after the game on Sunday against the Devils. And he said, he's feeling healthier from the high ankle sprain. He's feeling more confident as well. And I think Gabe Vilardi is doing a lot of the unsung hero work on that line too. I mean, he flies under the radar on the top line with Connor and Scheifele doing all the great work. I think he's kind of flying under the radar here too, because he's doing all the work along the wall and getting the pucks to Cole Perfetti in good spots. And he's even scoring goals himself, like we saw in the Devils game. So got to see that top line get back to what they were doing earlier in the season, Huss. Again, a little 2-game mulligan is totally fine given what they've done so far this season. But if the Jets can keep this going with the second line playing as well as they are right now, and the Connor Scheifele duo along with Iafallo on the top line can get going as well, that's the most complete the top 6 has looked all season long. And it's really been a long time coming, like you said, but I've loved what I've seen from that second line in the past couple of games here. Just looking at Jonathan Toews since the holiday break, 9 games. He's playing 14 and a half minutes a night, 2 goals, 4 assists, which all of them are primary assists, which is a great thing for him. 6 points. And his 5-on-5 metrics are solid as well, with goals with him on the ice at 5-on-5, 7-3 for the Jets. Expected goal share, 56%. High danger chance share, almost at 58%. shots on goal at 56% as well. So all of the underlying metrics that you want to see Jonathan Toews have as the second line center are going in the Jets' favor. They're out-chanting their opponents, out-shooting their opponents, and in turn outscoring them as well with him on the ice.
Well, and listen, I mean, the goals are important, and it's nice to see. But the fact of the matter is his line isn't getting killed like it was, during that really dry stretch, through November and a good portion of December. And the fact that they're on the right end of, the chances and whatnot with that'll come. And it was, those numbers were ugly at one point in the year. And there really has been a significant turnaround. And you can see it in a number of different metrics as you just laid it out. Let's get to the fourth line for a minute. And you know what? I'm going to throw the why not question of the day for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray out to the chat right now and get people's thoughts on what you've thought of Danny Zhilkin since he's been called up and the current fourth line with Cole Koepke and with Tanner Pearson. Just before we talk about that, Rima, if you want to get to clip 5, this was from Arniel earlier today. And talked about the fourth line. They'll be going out again. Danny Zhilkin in his fourth NHL game, playing with Cole Koepke and the veteran Tanner Pearson. Here was what Arnie had to say on the fourth.
Consistency in the sense of, not playing on our end of the rink. They're forcing whoever they're out against to play in their end. And, I think that all three of them are using their size. They're getting to the net. They're throwing pucks to the net, sort of being real simple about how they play.
All right, so there's just a quick one from the coach on the fourth line. Connor, we had Kevin Sawyer on yesterday. And again, weekend Monday morning quarterback when they made these moves and what they were going through in December. The one thing that I think we can all agree on is, getting a young guy like Danny Zhilkin in the lineup that, has really earned an opportunity with the Manitoba Moose. The excitement, the youthful energy, it's helped in a number of ways. And tell you what, he hasn't looked out of place. And I think the speed that he brings to that line's getting a little bit more out of Cole Koepke. And it's put Tanner Pearson, I think, in a much better spot to succeed than maybe he had been in previous times this year.
A few times with him on the ice around the play too. And he just hasn't gotten even like a phantom secondary assist. I want to see Danny Zhilkin get a point, but looking back on that fourth line, Huss, absolutely. I mean, Danny Zhilkin is a guy that has earned it, and he is a prospect. Like he's in his third AHL season right now, clearly playing with the most confidence he ever has in his career. 14 points in 30 games with the Manitoba Moose. He was the guy that earned the call-up 2022 third-round pick, and he brings that speed element. He brings a responsible defensive game. That's maybe why his offensive totals were down the first 2 years that he played in the American Hockey League. He's focusing so much on that defensive style. And now this year, he really clicked offensively, playing confident with the puck. And putting him with a speed guy like Cole Koepke, I really think is smart from a Jets perspective. You don't want Danny Zhilkin to be out there flying around and kind of be over pursuing as young players can do in their first couple of games. They're just so hyped up on adrenaline that they're over skating pucks and over back checking. That's a thing. And young players can absolutely do it. But I haven't seen that from Danny Zhilkin. He's playing a very responsible game. The forechecking has been a pleasant surprise for me. Even in the Devils game, just a subtle plays. He's carrying the puck through the neutral zone, one-on-one with Brendan Dillon, and he just flips it into the zone and beats Brendan Dillon to the puck below the goal line. Just subtle things like that we just don't really see or haven't seen from the Winnipeg Jets bottom six so far this season, where they can dump the puck in and immediately get possession. And Danny Zhilkin's one of those guys. He's a very strong forechecker. You've seen the speed, and in limited minutes, he can rest up on the bench while the Scheifele line and Taves line and all of those things go out on the ice, and then bring that speed for a very short shift. If you've been watching the games and paying attention to his shift lengths, they've been very short. He's not trying to test his luck, but I think that's great from a guy who's playing in his first couple of NHL games and is really bringing the strengths that he had in the AHL to the NHL level, which you want to see from young players.
Yeah, no, listen, he, I don't know whether he ends up being a longtime NHLer. We'll see what happens moving forward, but there is no doubt that he's been a sort of a breath of fresh air in this lineup. And to your point about Koepke, to be honest, with all of the struggles that the Jets have had kind of outside of the top line, Koepke, I don't know whether this was just his spot on the pecking order, but found himself on the outside of the lineup more often than not. It is very hard to make an argument that he's not consistently one of the 12 best forwards on this team. And I think now with Gus Nyquist spending extended time in the press box and an uncertain future here in Winnipeg, some potential other moves, I don't know if we see Cole Koepke getting much more press box duty. I think, he's proving himself to be a regular right now, and he deserves a lot of credit for what's happening with that fourth line as well.
100%, Huss. And if we want to, we can look at the goal totals for both of those guys. Cole Koepke hasn't spent time on the top power play. Cole Koepke hasn't spent time in the top six. Gustav Nyquist has, and he has no goals. And the speed element and the physicality and the forechecking are all things that Cole Koepke brings that Gustav Nyquist doesn't. And you even look at the penalty killing, Huss, as well. Koepke's one of the first two forward pairings over the boards on the PK, and with that speed, he can kill a lot of plays. He's got a great stick on the penalty kill as well. So I like Cole Koepke, and I think he's a quality fourth line player. And I really, it is puzzling to me why he wasn't in consistently. But like you said, Huss, with Nyquist struggles and the way that Koepke's playing, and Koepke's even scoring goals from the fourth line is producing right now. I can't see a scenario in which he comes out in the next couple of games just because he brings so much elsewhere, and he's also producing more than the offensive guy that's in the press box right now. So I like Cole Koepke being in for the speed, the forechecking, and definitely the penalty killing. Well,
make sure to pay attention to Winnipeg Sports Talk socials for more on game days and practice days from Connor. And before we go, why don't you tee up tonight's post-game festivities, which we'll have later on after the game, either at the end of the night or tomorrow morning when you get up. You can catch that when you're getting going or listen to it on your way to work.
Yeah, tonight's postgame is going to be fun. It's Liz and I breaking down the Jets and the Islanders. Huss, on Sunday, Tyson is an Eagles fan, and I'm a 49ers fan. So we waited till halftime of the game and then quickly recorded and then went back to watching the game. I think I had a better afternoon than he did. But tonight, there's no football. There's nothing holding us back from recording right after the game. So Liz and I will have you covered. We'll talk Matthew Schaefer, of course, from the Islanders, and see if the Jets can win their third straight game. It's going to be a blast. So join us on the post-game reaction.
On behalf of football fans everywhere, thank you to your team, the Niners, for ridding us of Nick Sirianni for the rest of the year. I'm greatly appreciative of it, and wish you luck next week. That is going to be it's a real tough spot. We've seen what Seattle's made of and what happened 2 weeks ago when they played, but that's why they play the games. Not a lot of people had the Niners coming out of Philly with a win, so we'll see what happens.
I'll say this, Huss. Saturday, Jets, Leafs, and 49ers, Seahawks. That could be like the best day of my life or the worst day of my life. We'll see how it goes.
Hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully it'll be good, Connor. Thanks so much for doing this. We'll see you at the rink tonight, and keep up the great work.
Thanks, Huss. Talk to you later.
All right, there's Connor Hrabchak with us again. He'll have lots after the game along with Liz. Liz, who did not like my suggestion. She was wanting to know where to go for a pregame meal. And I said, well, obviously the bacon mushroom melt is back at Wendy's. And surprisingly didn't think that was as great of an idea as I know Remis and I would say. It is great to have that thing back. It's the ultimate battle between everyone's New Year's resolutions. They throw out like the best fast food burger on the market for a limited time during the time when everyone's trying to just take it easy a little bit after the holidays. It's a very devious strategy that our friends at Wendy's have it. All right, John Hodge is going to join us in just a minute. Lots of stuff to talk to John about. Again, earlier today, we hit you with the Clean Line lines for tonight's game. Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, a Winnipeg mainstay, now locally owned and a leader in residential and commercial plumbing, heating, and electrical for over 40 years. And much like we always say, the captain has the back of the Winnipeg Jets. Clean Line has Winnipeggers and Manitobans back with 24/7 emergency services when you're in a jam and need that help now. Clean Line is there for you. Mark down the number 204-500-2001 for 24/7 emergency services and for all your commercial and residential plumbing, heating, and electrical needs. Lean on our friends at Clean Line, 40 years in the biz, proud sponsors of the Winnipeg Jets and the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets. Find them online at cleanline.ca. Another big weekend coming up of NFL football. We got the Jets Leafs on Saturday night. It's always a great time to get together with your gang for the big game, and where else to do it than your local Boston Pizza. The game on with sound, great prizes, pick a player for all Winnipeg Jet games, as well as during NFL football. Still chance to get in for that contest to Anaheim to see the Winnipeg Jets and the Ducks at the end of February when you're watching Winnipeg Jet games at Boston Pizza. And the real highlights, the ice cold schooners, the world famous BP wings, the gourmet pizzas, and so much more. Do it tonight at Boston Pizza. And if you're staying at home, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. Well, as the playoffs roll on in the National Football League, it's not too late to enlist with a fan base of one of the 8 remaining teams. You want to grab some NFL gear right now, there's no better place to do it than Royal Sports. While you're at it, baseball season right around the corner. Got some new Jays players who can hook you up with some great Jays merch. And, of course, the Olympics coming up. And Hockey Canada, jerseys, hoodies, hats, and more just in time to see our best take on the world's best, all ready for you and waiting at Royal Sports. Lots of great Canada soccer gear as well for the upcoming World Cup. Whether it's for fan gear, whether you're looking for hockey sticks or equipment, they've been the leader for over 50 years in that. Big snowboard department for those of you that are getting ready to hit the hills on a holiday at some point. It's all waiting for you at Winnipeg's undisputed sports superstore, Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. Pop by in person and check them out online. Give them a follow at Royal Sports Winnipeg on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, just as we bring in John Hodge, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's step away from the pucks for a minute to a little football conversation. John Hodge of 3 Down Nation joins us now. John, what's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great, Huss. Thanks for having me.
Hey, listen, just before we get into some Bomber talk, GM meetings and all that, big curling event in town on the weekend. Well, not in town, just outside of town, in Steinbach. I talked to John Cullen on Thursday, and everyone was so impressed with the venue, the crowd support. What were your takeaways from the Players' Cup on the weekend?
Oh, I thought it was awesome. I mean, the Southeast Event Center, it was my first time there, and they've done a great job. I mean, it's a $75 million facility, so you'd certainly hope it's nice. But it's a great venue. Like, it's one where you turn onto the street and you see it. It's got the curb appeal. It's got the windows, the natural light inside, and perfectly suited, like perfectly suited venue for that type of event. Because unfortunately, we don't have a great mid-sized arena here in Winnipeg. And so for, just shy of 3,000 fans to some local, obviously in Steinbach, the surrounding area, some driving down from Winnipeg, it's a great place to watch some curling. And it was a first-class event. I'm told it's the second highest selling Grand Slam of curling event ever from a ticket sales perspective. So I know that's exciting for them. And I think the curling group wants to come back to Steinbach basically as soon as they can.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Steinbach becomes basically a fixture in the Grand Slams, considering the result of it. How did everything go on the ice?
Well, I mean, I think the Canadian team struggled, especially on the men's side. It was an all-Scotland final, which was actually a little odd because the number 1 team in the world is from Scotland and Bruce Mallett, and they didn't make the quarterfinals. So it was 2 non-Mallett Scottish teams competing for first place. I don't think that's what the locals wanted. I think the locals were hoping for like a Mike McHugh and Matt Dunstone battle. Obviously, we'll get to see those 2 play at the Briar relatively soon, but it wasn't a local matchup on the men's side. On the women's side, they fared a lot better, the Canadian teams. Carrie Anerson narrowly winning the quarter, and then the semi against Rachel Homan, won both those games on steals. She couldn't get it done against Tiranzoni, the team out of Italy, in the final. But it was still a great week. And obviously, Brad Jacobs as a representative in the Olympics for Team Canada, and also Rachel Holman will both be looking to bounce back a little bit next month in Italy.
All right, let's move over to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And the first thing I want to ask you about was something that I came across yesterday. The UFL quarterback list got released yesterday. Mm-hmm. And Taylor Elgersma is on the list of the Birmingham Stallions. I don't know a lot about the UFL. I mean, it seems to change. I mean, that level, what it's called, where the teams are, and all that each and every year. What do we take from this? Like, does this mean, like, does Elgersma put his name into that list saying, I'd like to play, and that's how he's there? Or is this no different than the Winnipeg Jets drafting Elgersma and having his rights if he plays in the CFL?
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on the UFL either, Huss, but I know that Taylor Elgersma has not signed a contract in the UFL. And so he is a free agent. If at some point he wants to play in the UFL, he would now be the property of the Birmingham Stallions. But as of right now, he is free to sign with an NFL team, a CFL team, in which case it would be the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, or a UFL team, which would be the Stallions. But he is free to sign wherever he likes. Should also be noted that when the CFL's NFL window closes early next month, for example, Trey Vavel, someone who that's pertinent for, Elgersma is not held to that deadline because he's not under CFL contract, right? He is a true free agent. He can go wherever he wants. He's had a number of NFL workouts over the last 6 weeks or so, hasn't signed, but there is no reason for Bomber fans to panic right now if that's what they're worried about, is if Taylor's going to choose the UFL over the CFL. We don't know what he's going to choose, whether it's, again, depending on NFL offers and such. All we know is that the Bombers are still in communication with Elgersma's camp, and we know that he has not signed a UFL contract. He is a free agent. It's possible he goes to the Stallions. It's also possible he never goes to the UFL.
Yeah, it's intriguing for one reason. Like, often you'll see these quarterbacks that are put on, these lists or, flirting with the UFL, and they're just looking to play and get game reps. The one, like, if he is really set on playing in the National Football League, unlike the rest of those guys on that list, he's the one that could probably benefit the most from having 4-down tape outside of what he did in the preseason. The season does start earlier. I was just kind of digging into it. I guess they're going to announce the schedule in about 9 days. It goes in an off season. Do we see UFL guys finish up seasons and then potentially be eligible for CFL time? Or if he's there, does that pretty much write off this season?
No, it's really easy to get out of the UFL deal, is my understanding, because it has happened before. I mean, the best example from a CFL perspective would probably be Darnell Sankey, a guy who started a ton of games in the UFL. I think was then still the XFL or the USFL, but regardless, and then signed with the Montreal Alouettes and played a lot of the CFL season and helped that team win a Grey Cup that year against the Bombers. So, I don't think there's much longevity in playing in both leagues because your body's obviously taking so much wear and tear. But yeah, if you're Elgersma, I think it could make sense to say, you know what, I can't play in the CFL until May anyway. Why not sign a UFL contract and potentially use that as a springboard to get back into the NFL? Because you mentioned Elgersma's a bit of a unique guy in that, unlike most CFL quarterbacks, he didn't play in the NCAA. He played U Sports, which means he's got a ton of 3-down film. He knows a lot about the 3-down game, right? There's not as steep of a learning curve for him coming up to Canada. If I'm an NFL team, what I'm worried about is, what does this guy know about 4-down football? How well can he read a field that's smaller? How well can he play against defenses that are only 11 men, not 12? And so I don't know if Taylor Elgersma is going to sign or is not going to sign. I'm just speculating based on context clues and background information. It could make good sense, but if in fact he does sign in the UFL, no, that would not preclude him from signing a CFL contract for 2026. He could easily request his release from the Stallions, and theoretically he could sign with the Bombers the very next day.
John, speaking of quarterbacks, who is Peyton Thorne? Tell us about the young man that I guess you chatted with him yesterday.
Yeah, so I spoke with Peyton Thorne yesterday. That interview should be up in full on the 3-Down podcast feed and YouTube channel certainly by Thursday, if not possibly even Wednesday, tomorrow. He started his collegiate career at Michigan State, originally from a suburb of Chicago. And in his 3 seasons at Michigan State, actually got a chance to start as a redshirt sophomore in 2021 and went 11-2. Threw for over 3,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. Really great season. Wasn't able to replicate that success as much in his second year as a starter. And so he went down to Auburn University for 2023 and 2024, where the passing numbers were still solid, not as great, but he opened things more running the ball. He told me his last season with the Spartans, he was dealing with turf toe all year. He goes down to Auburn, has a lot more success moving the football with his legs. Now, he was in camp with the Cincinnati Bengals in 2025. It's kind of funny, actually, the way he's had former CFL quarterbacks mentor him to an extent. Obviously, down at Auburn, he's got Kent Austin, Grey Cup winning head coach and, record-setting quarterback of, a dozen years back in the day, as his quality control coach in 2023, and then his quarterbacks coach in 2024. And then Zach Taylor, head coach of the Bengals, a former CFL, short-lived, but still a former CFL quarterback in his own right. So he seems excited to come up to Canada. He's big, 6'2", 210. He's athletic. He can move the ball with his feet. And again, he's relatively young, right? Bryce Perkins, who's come up earlier this offseason, he's 29, right? Reigning UFL MVP. He's an older guy who's been a pro for over a half decade. He's not the kind of guy who you come in and you view as a project. Peyton Thorne could be that guy who we're looking at as being the franchise quarterback in Winnipeg 3, 4, 5 years down the line. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen or that it's not going to happen, but I think he's a little bit more of a ball of clay. He talked to me about wanting to get into coaching. His grandfather, his father were coaches, so there's a lot of kind of legacy in his family, if you will, for football. But certainly he's a football junkie, and he seems excited to get to Winnipeg. So I'm really interested to see what he can do in blue and gold, because we all know between Zach Collaros' age, Chris Streveler being a pending free agent, coming off the ACL tear, Terry Wilson being limp, right? Like, this team needs to get better under center, and it needs a future under center. So I'm really interested to see what Peyton Thorne does in Winnipeg in 2026.
Speaking of center, Chris Kolankowski is now a member of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, teaming up with his old pal Liam Dobson. Where does this leave the Blue Bomber offensive line? And just a little thoughts on why he was released early. And then we can get into the future of Stanley Bryant and Patty Neufeld while we're at it.
Sure. I mean, Kolankowski was a pending free agent, and I think when the Bombers made it clear to his camp that he wasn't going to be brought back, Kolankowski's agent essentially said, well, why don't you, with everything Kolankowski's done for you in Winnipeg, give him early access to the market? And so they opted to do that. We saw something similar today with the Ottawa Redblacks releasing a Darius Pickett, right? It does happen every now and again, usually for more veteran players who have clout in that market or who have powerful agents. But in terms of the center position, I mean, Pat Neufeld, if he's back, I think could potentially slot over. He's a guy who has been able to play center. Has played actually a lot of guard and tackle for Winnipeg. Not a lot of center, but could. Tui Eli, I think that's been his natural position this whole time. He's obviously back under another 2-year deal. He's played mostly guard and tight end in Winnipeg, but he was a collegiate standout at the University of Hawaii at center. And then Ethan Vibert, the team's 3rd-round pick in last year's draft out of, I believe it was South Dakota State, if I remember correctly, is a natural center. So the Bombers have a lot of guys who can play that position. I think the knock on Kolankowski a little bit is just because of his size. Not a guy who's ever really going to play guard, just limited to center. If you look at Ellie, you look at Vibert, even Neufeld potentially, these are all guys who are a little more versatile on the inside. And the way Kyle Walters said it from the Avails in yesterday over video conference with the CFL's offseason winter meetings is he said, we just decided that the status quo from last year wasn't going to be good enough. And this is the change that we looked at. And he did indicate that Patty Neufeld and Stanley Bryant want to keep playing. And he actually was complimentary of how they played in 2025. The issue, Huss, is, of course, the age factor. I mean, Patty Neufeld, 37. Stanley Bryant's turning 40 in May. Like, these are guys who, at this point of their career, the absolute best case scenario is a plateau, right? There's no improving at this part of your career, and it'd only be natural at this age for them to fall off. Now, I have a ton of respect for both of these guys. They're great to talk to after games, after practices, whatever. And they've both obviously been super long tenured Bombers who have done great things, award winners, all-stars, all that. But at a certain point, you just have to get younger. I think Gabe Wallace is a good young piece. Micah Vanterpool, Kendall Randolph, who both started games in 2025, good young pieces. I think it's possible both these guys are back, but it also wouldn't surprise me if the Bombers tried to play a little hardball with these guys, saying, hey, listen, we can't just keep giving you the same contract year in, year out. You might have to take less money because we have needs elsewhere. We were a fourth-place team last year. We have to upgrade other positions.
John, I know you, Dunk and the gang at 3 Down all over the CFL meetings this week. What are the key topics you're hearing? Any other interesting scuttlebutt that you guys are covering on 3 Down?
Well, I thought it was great that the CFL, for the first time ever, and this is a transparency goal that new commissioner Stuart Johnston has kind of set, is they published their agenda. It's not an exhaustive list, but it was still a pretty thorough list of topics they're going to be talking about. And a lot of them are issues that, frankly, I think this league should have changed years ago. For instance, I don't like the playoff setup. I don't think it's right that a 9-win team can win one division and get a bye when you might have 3 13-win teams in another division, and one of them has to go on the road right away, right? I also don't think the awards make sense. I don't think that having arbitrarily a West Division and East Division candidate for awards makes sense, right? I mean, Brady Oliveira, Matthew Betts, Nathan Rourke, like these are arguably the 3 best Canadian players in the CFL. They're all in the same division. You throw in Sam Emilus, right, and some of the other guys, Tavon Campbell. Like, how are you supposed to have a proper most outstanding Canadian vote if 5 of your best Canadians are in one division? And the opposite could be true too. I'm not anti-East Division, but in my opinion, it should be the 3 best players for each award are the finalists. It shouldn't be 2, and they shouldn't arbitrarily be split by division. And I would say the same thing for the All-Star teams. I don't like all East Division and all West Division. I think it should be first team CFL, second team CFL. Keep it simple, right? For example, last year, I thought that the 4 best guards in the CFL played in the East Division, not the West Division. So there's a bunch of changes that are on the docket. I'd encourage people to check out the full list at 3 Down Nation. And for anybody wondering about rule change updates, things like that, the best news is Stuart Johnston is doing a media availability on Wednesday. And so traditionally, since COVID at least, with the video conference, we've had CFL coaches and GMs available during this session. This is the first time the commissioner is also doing a media availability. So I'm really interested to see what Stuart Johnston has to say, because unlike the coaches and the GMs who spoke to the media before all of these meetings took place, Johnston will be speaking to the media after they've taken place. And theoretically, he could provide some insight on what the nature of the discussion was like, and if in fact it appears some rules are going to be changed or others won't. And I know people get a little upset when they hear Stuart Johnston's name in the same sentence as rule changes, but I do want to remind people, rule changes, the rule committee meets every single year, and most years some change of some kind is made to the CFL. So I know it's a lightning rod issue because of the changes that were announced in September, but this is a normal process that is happening. This happens every single year. The only reason it's more topical this year is, 1, people are really interested in the rule changes, and 2, the CFL published its agenda for the first time in 2026. I don't believe having ever done that before in league history.
You know, I am so with you on what you started off with. I think the division setup is antiquated in the CFL.
Totally.
I would love to see, and again, with the goal of getting a 10th team, you have one division, 9 teams right now. You'll have 2 extra games. You'll play everybody once, home and home. There'll be the extra games added on. When you get to 10 teams, it'll be a perfectly even schedule, home and away with every team in the NHL or in the CFL. It could not be more fair. Top 2 teams get buys. You seed them 1 to 6. We could get some really interesting playoff matchups that we don't normally get. I think it would reward the teams for their work through the regular season all year long. And we wouldn't have some of these like strange playoff scenarios where there's a 5-11 team and a 6-12 team, or 6-10 team battling for one spot, while a team that might be 9-9 is hanging on because they're in a much stronger division. And everything else you said makes sense about the finalists. I mean, I think getting a top 3 of the league as finalists, much like the National Hockey League does for their awards, is something that would, to your point, reward excellence of players, not based on what division they're in, but by what they do in the regular season.
Well, and I think having a league-wide playoff structure that's not division dependent could make races way more exciting. And what I mean by that is if you go back a few years, by middle of September, the Toronto Argonauts wrapped up the East Division because mathematically none of the 3 other teams in that division could catch them. Well, if instead of, again, a system where a 4-team division has the top team get a bye arbitrarily, and you instead had a 9-team kind of league standings where the top 2 teams get byes, the Argonauts can't pack it in mid-September and just say, yeah, we can coast the last 7 weeks. Instead, you might get a situation or scenario where they go, okay, like we're still in a really good spot to get a bye, but we're going to have to play, right, and play well over the next few weeks in order to clinch that, or potentially another month plus. So I think there's not only ways where the matchups could be more interesting instead of arbitrary, it's Montreal and Hamilton in the East Semi again, right? Like some of these matchups have gotten a little bland, but also you could actually prolong the excitement come the race to the playoffs, right? Rather than a team locking up a division 5-6 weeks early, it's going to be harder to do that. It's going to take longer to clinch those spots if theoretically every team in the CFL could qualify for first place in the East rather than just 4 teams being able to do it.
Well said. Fill people in on what you got cooking over at 3 Down. You mentioned that interview that'll be coming up on the podcast and on the YouTube. What else? I guess busy week for you guys with everything going on with the meetings.
Yeah, we've got the Peyton Thorne interview coming up shortly this week. We've got the commissioner, and of course, I'm sure we'll have a ton of content from his availability on Wednesday. And then we've got our usual pod breaking down all the latest news and insight. On Friday, I've got some interesting tidbits from the avails. We've got some NIL college quarterback talk from Ryan Regmaden. We've got, I wish I could say he was shedding light on it. Didn't really shed light on it, but we tried with Mike Pinball Clemens about the tampering allegations against his team and the departure of John Murphy from that personnel group. So we've got lots of content stacked for the next few days, and I'd encourage everybody to check it out over at 3downnation.com.
John, thanks as always for the time. Always a pleasure, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. At John D. Hodge on X. Make sure you give him a follow and check out all the big CFL offseason news and more over at 3downnation.com. All right, we got a game tonight. We got to get into some picks. And guess what else we have this week, folks? Golf season is back. And I do know very few people that are more excited for the Sony Open, the resumption, or getting going with the PGA Tour than my good friend from Coolbet, Pat Gregoire, who just got a quick spritz in and is ready to go for his weekly visit on WST. Patty, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I was hoping no one saw that in the green room, but gotta keep the lettuce fresh. Gotta keep the lettuce fresh. I know normally for the golf segments, I like to wear a hat, but the flow was looking pretty good today, so I kept with it.
Well, I got to tell you right off the bat, a huge thanks to you guys as we continue to kind of grow our monthly poker tourneys. Man, did we get great feedback and excitement about the 3 tourneys and last night's final. Congratulations to Greg, who is our winner, who will be down with us in Costa Rica. Really looking forward to that. And I got to tell you, the final was epic. I think Derek, who was second, was in chat. I mean, when the stakes are as high with the prize like that, I mean, I sat there and just watched the heads-up battle for the better part of a good 45 minutes or so. And it was up, it was down. It was 2 heavyweights throwing bombs. So a very excited poker crew. And we'll, now with the success of this, we'll look forward to, I was thinking we may even do a couple in February once we get back with the NHL being off. We'll kind of time it in and around the playoffs. But we'll get back to it. And again, if you haven't played poker at Coolbet, get on over there. Check it out. There's fun daily games. I'm kind of getting into that a little bit more. And other great contests that they put forth. Maybe you can be at the Coolbet Open in Estonia, the Irish Open.
Yes. Oh, you stole the words out of it. The Irish Open, I believe March 26th to April 6th. So maybe that could be the next one. I know that would be probably quite the trip for a lot of folks, but I tell you, the Coolbet Open in Estonia, the weather will be great in Tallinn. It is an unbelievable tournament that the folks at Coolbet headquarters in Tallinn, Estonia put on. So maybe we'll do both. Who knows? I mean, with the way that how well received Costa Rica was and all those qualifiers and the satellites, why wouldn't we run it back? But first, you guys got to take care of business while you're over in Costa Rica. The way that you and Hammer have been playing the last few months, I'm expecting you guys to take home a nice big check.
Just pulling the curtain back, I was talking to Jeff offline about some stuff, and I mean, dude is like in a crash course of audiobooks and poker strategy and all of that. I mean, hey, he's gonna try and get some from him. But yeah, no, it was so much fun. Again, thanks to everyone that played, and stay tuned. We'll have more regular WST monthly games, and we will work on maybe putting something together for one of those other big events that Coolbet's involved with outside of Canada. Patty, just before we get to the golf, we are, for folks that watch WST Winners, Friday mornings, 10 a.m. when we make our picks, we rode with your team and Jake's team, the Bills and the Patriots. We came through with the Texans last night. Great way. We finished the season with the partner parlay cashing, and then we started off the playoffs. Dare I say, we might have a head-to-head battle between you and Jake in a week in the AFC Championship game. You got to feel pretty good about the Bills. And listen, there was not a lot to like about the Bills head-to-head when you broke down 1-53. But there was one guy, he wears number 17, and man, was he nails. And they needed every bit of greatness from Josh Allen to get that win. But they got it done, and now they're on the way to Denver.
Yeah, that's the one challenging thing. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, of course. Would I love to go toe-to-toe against Jake Bolenmoss and Drake May and all of New England Patriots Nation? Of course I would. But, hey, I'm going to throw out some cliches as well. We've been hearing it all playoff long. We're going to take it one game at a time. Mile High is no walk in the park. That's going to be a tough game. That defense is great. But at the end of the day, I said it on WST Winners. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. If not now, when for Josh Allen? Patrick Mahomes isn't there. Joe Burrow isn't there. Lamar Jackson isn't there. I mean, when you look at the AFC, he is the best quarterback standing. And even if you look at across the league, you could argue he is still the best quarterback, the best player in this playoffs. Huss, he's the third oldest, now the second oldest with Rodgers being eliminated. The third oldest quarterback in the playoffs. Like, this isn't a spring chicken anymore. Josh Allen, sure, he's only 29, but the experience is there. He's been in those big games, and finally, for once, the defense didn't disappoint Josh Allen. They came up with a big play. They made the big play because you know better than anyone. There have been a lot of times where Josh Allen's pretty much done everything he's needed to. He's sitting on that cold bench, and then boom, Patrick Mahomes goes in and does something crazy, or Joe Burrow snatches the souls of Bills Mafia. That was a big pick. I don't want to hear the discourse about them should have been taking a knee and then tush pushed and tried. No. Could you imagine what would have happened if they took a knee twice, then tush push and missed that, and then they end up losing because of it? Like, come on, give me a break, guys.
No, they had to do it.
You got to trust your defense.
And you know what? I got to give credit to Liam Cohen. I thought that he used his timeouts as well as any NFL coach has in a similar situation in a long time. Most coaches don't have the stones to plan for the possibility that you do get scored on and you need the time left. And, with a 4-point lead and Buffalo needing a touchdown, it was a possibility that he'd get it the way that Josh Allen was playing. And it wasn't like he was playing to lose, but he gave his team at least a chance to get the ball back, albeit with no timeouts and a minute left. But hey, good on the Bills. As I told you a long time ago, if it's not the Chiefs, I think the player who's had some of the most heartbreaking losses in NFL playoff history through no fault of his own, and certainly the fans of the Buffalo Bills deserve some good times. So, and to top it all off with the fact that I've been waiting all year long to bet against the Broncos in the playoffs. This is,
Yes.
I think we know where I'm going to be, what side of that game we're going to be on
This is your Super Bowl.
Friday morning. Just a quick thought on last night's game. The Houston defense, as advertised, Pittsburgh had absolutely nothing. But as someone that did take a Texans future and thinks that they're very live to make it to the Super Bowl, I couldn't believe how sketchy CJ Stroud looked yesterday. I heard that he hadn't fumbled all season long. The ball was on the ground every 2 or 3 plays last night. But again, when your defense outscores the other team 14-6, not much to worry about. He'll need to be way better going into Foxborough next week, dealing with probably similar climates and a similar insane crowd that'll be loud the entire game.
Man, I saw a stat today that CJ Stroud now has the same amount of playoff victories as Lamar Jackson does. And I think that's what we can say.
What?
Quarterback. Yeah, that's crazy. Absolutely nuts, man. Absolutely nuts. That is the perfect argument that quarterback wins stats should not be a quarterback stat. It's a team stat because CJ Stroud did everything in his power to lose that game last night. The Houston Texans won in spite of CJ Stroud. I could not believe it. There was a part of me where I was like, oh my goodness, I think the Steelers actually might win this game. And then the Steelers showed who they are. And boy, do I know the Steelers. Do you know the Steelers? Does Jake know the Steelers? We called this to a T. We said they were going to sneak into the playoffs. We cashed their win total. We cashed them to make the playoffs. And then we said they're going to bow out in the first round. And I called it as well. I said, I think we're going to see Mike Tomlin's last game as a coach. And what happens today? He steps down. I think he might have been asked to step down, mutually part ways, but he's done. But man, oh man, I think if Houston, if that offense, if CJ Stroud plays, half as bad as that, I think the Patriots will have no problem with them. And that was with the Patriots team that their offense and their O-line had some struggles in their own, but they need to clean it up. I tell you, Huss, bet of the week, bet of this slate might have to be the under 41 because just of how inept both those offenses looked in their 2 games, but also how damn good both those defenses looked
Big time
in the wild card round as well.
Yeah, I know what Charger fans, my pal Feinberg freaking out. Jesse Minter's getting 8 interviews. Every single team that it needs a coach is going there. I guess now we include the Steelers there. It'll be fascinating to see whether Tomlin coaches this year or whether he goes, maybe takes some time off to come back in. I love Mike Tomlin as a guy. Like, I love listening to him, and I want him in the NFL. But as I say, the coaching carousel is going to give us lots to talk about as we continue.
I want well, there's 2 things I want. Either A, I want Tomlin to go just right across the division and go to the Ravens.
Oh, God.
Harbaugh
to the Steelers.
I know. Just do a switch. That's exactly it. The next thing I really want to see, though, I would love to see maybe Tomlin take a year off and hop on a panel. I think he would be so good.
Yeah.
Joining one of those panels, whether it's with Fox or ESPN. I think that would be amazing. I think he would be perfect for that.
Patty, let's get into a little bit of golf talk for the first time this year. The season is back. Just before we get who you like this week, how about Brooks Koepka? Brooks has ditched Liv, back on the tour. They put together some returning player thing where if you've won a major in the last 4 years, you're eligible. Hello, Brooks. Sorry about that, Phil Mickelson. You won 5 years ago. We're only giving you 4. But listen, this is going to be great for Brooks. He seemed to be so disinterested playing on that live tour, and I think it really hampered his golf. I do wonder whether we're going to see the best of Brooks when he comes back to tour this year.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that Brooks Koepka, even when he was on the PGA Tour, wasn't exactly the most motivated golfer until the majors showed up. And I think, him then moving over to live and then coming back and playing those majors kind of reminded him that, that he really did fall out of love with the game. And then last year, you could tell he just was very disengaged. I think we see a very motivated Brooks Koepka. I also think that this is a Brooks Koepka that, sure, he's coming back, but this isn't Brooks Koepka that's going to be able to pick and choose whatever tournaments he wants to play. And he has to meet a requirement of how many he plays. He also needs to do that because he needs to accumulate a certain amount of points so he can stay on tour, so he can get into those signature events. So there is some incentive behind it. And for that reason, Huss, I think he's probably going to win one of these signature events early on. I think we could see a big year from him. I really, really believe that this is going to be a completely different Brooks Koepka that we see. But I've got him to win any major, 13-1 right now. It's the Greggy's Golf Special. You go to the exclusive tab, whether it's his favorite tournament of the year in the PGA Championship, which he seems to dominate, or, let's not forget a couple of really good finishes at Augusta, even since leaving live. So I would not be surprised. So you're getting a pretty darn good number at 13-1 for him to win. I've already bet him to win the Masters. As soon as it was announced he was back, I went in, made a couple of futures, but I also went to the fellas and said, listen, we got to get a Brooks Koepka special because he's back. And that means it is Brooks' major season is going to be officially back.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely be talking about him on WST Winners on major weeks when we're doing our specials for the big tourneys. As far as the Sony Open, this isn't really the most star-studded event, but the tour is back. We got a full slate. Russell Henley is the favorite at 10-1. You got Decky at 16. Ben Griffin and JJ Spawn, the other players, under 20-1. A group of 20s, including Keegan Bradley, who looked pretty good with his Tom Selleck stash and at Boston Common on the TGL, along with Siwoo Kim, Morikawa. Our pal Corey Connors is 28-1 amongst some of the guys that are kind of below 30. This is always tough. I tell folks, and I do myself, I kind of tread slowly going in because you really don't know where these guys are at. That doesn't mean we're not going to have a little action on the Sony Open, though. Where are you at?
Well, you mentioned it, not a star-studded field. And I think, yes, Russell Henley, probably the best player in this, and that's why he's listed at 10-1. So probably not going to end up on my outright cards, but maybe, a top 10 at plus 120 or build some sort of parlay with them. So I go a little bit down the board. You talk about the lack of star power. And I know this guy's maybe not a star yet, but he's on the precipice of becoming a star. And that's Robert McIntyre at 22-1. I was kind of dumbfounded, to be quite honest, that his numbers were here because, like you said it, there's a lot of times where guys kind of put the sticks away for a little while and, it takes them a little bit to get going. But he played really well last year, and he also continued on when he went on with the European Tour and the DP World Tour. Had a strong fall. He won the Alfred Dunhill Links Championship. He finished in the top 10 of both the Abu Dhabi and the DP World Championship. And I think you can make a very strong case that he is the second best golfer in this field. I'm sure Hideki Matsuyama would have a case for that. I think, when you look at JJ Spawn, who had a great season last year, maybe you can talk about that. And Colin Morikawa, although he's not the same Colin Morikawa as we've seen. So when you get Robert McIntyre at 22-1 in a field like this, it just certainly didn't make sense to me. Got to get some Canadian flavor. I'll go with the defending champ, Nick Taylor at 40-1. Haas, I don't know what it is with Nick Taylor, but this guy comes out the gate flying. every year it seems like he wins a tournament earlier. Last year, he won this tournament. 2 years before that, he won the Phoenix Open early on. The guy comes out with his hair on fire. It doesn't always like translate into success throughout the year, but he's a guy that for whatever reason, he always comes out hot. So I like him at 40-1. I also like him to finish in the top 20 at plus 137. And like you said, you don't really know with these tournaments. So usually you want to go down the board a little bit. Taylor Pendrith at 50-1, I think is a play. He's healthy. He's a guy that kind of finished strong last year, got back on track. But what is going on here with some of these numbers and some of these players? I know they haven't been, like last year was a bit of a nightmare for Tony Finau, but 100-1 in this field? How could I not sprinkle a little bit on big game Tony? This is also a guy that has had some success in Hawaii. And when you want to talk about ceiling players, I talked about how Robert McIntyre right now, best or one of the best players in this tournament. When Tony's playing his best, he could be the best player in this tournament. So we didn't see a great season out of him, but I had 100-1. There's no way I wasn't going to sprinkle on old Tony boy.
I am riding with you on all three of these. I knew you were locked in on this. I am sold on the picks. Bobby Mack at 22-1, Nick Taylor at 40, and you don't need to twist my arm on a triple digits on Tony Finau at literally everything. Do we want to put together a little combo card for this one?
You don't have to twist my arm to do that either. I've got my combo card already, so I'll lay it out for you, and it's pretty easy when you look at it because it's very similar to my outrights. I've got Bobby Mack and Nick Taylor both to finish inside the top 20, and then I went with Aaron Rye to make the cut. Plus 507, boosted up to plus 584. So if we want Bobby Mack in there or Nick Taylor, maybe we go with the top 10 for one of those guys. Maybe we get a top 20 for Finau or make the cut. And then I don't know if you have another pick or another guy that jumped out.
What do we think about Corey?
Heck yeah. I'd be in for that.
I mean, Corey Connors. Why don't we say Corey Connors a top 10? That's plus 260. Okay. Why don't we go with Tony Finau to make the cut?
Like that.
And then
Nikki T, top 20, or do we want to go
What about
a little bit further?
Well, I mean, I don't mind Keegan Bradley. He's a guy that, and again, like all of these guys, it's just like, have they been playing, what they've been up to? Spieth's 40-1 in this one, too.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like Spieth is going to be basically playing in every single tournament this year. We're going to be seeing a lot of Spieth. I think he's itching to get a win. So we might be seeing him at some of these cakewalk events. You mentioned, I mean,
how about a top 20 for Billy Ho?
I'm in for that. I'm in for Billy Ho. I like that. I like that a lot.
So Corey Connors top 10.
Yep.
Billy Ho top 20. Tony to make the cut.
Perfect.
Three of our guys. We'll throw that one up there and we'll get that in. You got to get that in before Thursday morning.
That will be in the combo cards as well, Huss. We'll get that up ASAP.
Perfect, Pat. Just as we leave, and I know we talked about the Bills, but you got to be feeling pretty good. Is the Leafs and Austin Matthews back? Beat the Avs last night. Matthews looks like a different player right now than he had been for the better part of the last 3 weeks. I mean, and you look at the numbers, like his puck touch is in the O zone, speed burst, shots, chances, goals. Everything is turned around. I mean, it looked like it maybe was a lost season for the Leafs, and now with a real hot 3-week period, they're looking real good heading into Mitch versus the Leafs on Thursday night.
I can't wait for that. Honestly, me with the Leafs right now, it's Al Pacino. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. But you are right. Like Austin Matthews looks like Austin Matthews again. Watching him last night against that Avs team, man, that was one great game last night. It was worth staying up late here in Ontario. But, Matthews rang a couple of bars. His release looks like he's back. He's playing really well defensively still. William Nylander's back and he's healthy. Like, all things are coming together, which is also scary at this point. The fact that you're getting them at plus money, I know they're coming off a back-to-back going in overtime. Like, it's tempting, but I could definitely see this being like a letdown spot because everything is so high. They've been rolling. They knock off the Avs, their first loss on home ice in 17 games. This could be a letdown spot for the Leafs, but with the way that they've been playing against Utah, Utah's no slouch themselves, but it's kind of staring at me in the face there. I probably would stay away. But yeah, no, they've been playing a lot better. They're in the playoffs, in a playoff spot for the first time in months. But the Eastern Conference, man, I don't know how much you've been keeping tabs on the daily race, but
it's crazy.
It's like musical chairs. One day, one moment you're in the first wild card, and the next you're 5 spots back. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Well, right now, Philly's in the third spot in the Met at 52 points. Buffalo's in the second wild card at 52, one back of the Leafs at 53. Washington and Boston, 52 points as well. Pittsburgh and Florida, 51. I mean, it is just, it's nuts. And by the way, we'll have some fun on WST winners because we will focus in on the NFL playoffs. But we do have Jets Leafs, and we missed the opportunity to do anything for that game the last time because, of course, it was on New Year's Day. So we'll have some fun. We'll cook something up for that one when we do that as well. Hey, Pat, just on the way out, while you're putting that golf one in, if you'd be so kind, I got a 3-gamer tonight. The Wild last night. Oh, I love that pick. We had the 3 games plus the Texans. The Wild blew it to the Devils, which was a bit of a shocker. But the good old Ride with Huss 3-game money line parlay tonight. Washington at home to the Habs. Habs played last night. Washington's minus 133. Edmonton, I don't care. They played last night. They abuse the Nashville Predators every time they play. Draisaitl gets 1,000,000 points. Edmonton's minus 125 in Nashville. And the Dallas Stars in Anaheim, minus 118. That one is, so Washington, Edmonton, Dallas, all money line, plus 483. And I know we'll get a nice little boost on that. So we can fire that one up in the combo cards if you wouldn't mind as well. And if people want to ride, they can do so right on the main page at coolbet.com.
I should know better. Jake is in the chat and he's also in the lab. He's already working on both those parlays for us. So I'm also going to put, you know what? It's been a while since I popped on WST here, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. I'm going to throw a Patty's prop shop together. I'm sorry, folks. We were at, the field goals looked so good and we got the sack from Anderson so early. I thought we were cruising down mainstream. We did not get the field goals, and then Watt didn't get it. So we ended up not even being really that close. But I will bounce back tonight. I'm going to put together some pucks, some props, and hopefully get a winner for the folks because I let them down with our primetime parlay. I thought we were set.
Love it, dude. Hey, great to have you back on the program. Jake's going to join us on Thursday, and then for my money, maybe the best weekend of the year. I love Wild Card Weekend because we have the 6 games in the Monday Nighter, but the final 8 in the NFL, and man, we got some doozies. It's a really intriguing matchups as we knew we were going to get to. You have a great one. Thanks again for everything for the poker promo. People were so fired up. It's going to be great. I will talk to you Friday morning, 10 a.m. right here on WST. And hopefully we can go 3 weeks in a row with the winner in the partner parlay. The pressure's on for all of us.
Let's stay hot. Good luck, everyone, with your bets tonight.
Take it easy. There's Pat Gregoire. Gave him a follow on X at PGreggy. And, of course, at Coolbet Canada for everything we cook up here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Let's get Remo back in here as we finish up the Coolbet lines. Big slate of games tonight, dude, in the league.
Yeah, there was a lot yesterday. Tuesdays, traditionally the big day. Haven't looked too far and focused on the Jets and Islanders tonight, but number of games. Maybe we'll have a closer eye than usual on this Blue Jackets game with Rick Bowness behind the bench with Columbus for the first time.
Yeah, the other games that I didn't put in on that parlay, Bones' debut with the Blue Jackets, Columbus minus 143, Calgary plus 121. Man, if the Sens don't beat Vancouver tonight, that it is a mess there in Ottawa right now. Ottawa's minus 227, Vancouver's plus 190. I think the goals for and against on this road trip for the Canucks is like 6-4, 21 against. They're having a rough time. The only team below the Jets right now as we go into action tonight.
I was listening to the Chris Johnson podcast, and Julian McKenzie was saying about Vancouver that they've led for like 8 minutes total in the last like 10 games or something stupid. And that was before yesterday's game where they got pumped by Montreal. So I think Vancouver is the early leader here for, the team that's most likely to finish
32.
last. Yeah,
32 of 32.
Like the Jets aren't going to, they got some competition. I know they were 32nd last week. They won this 2-game win streak. Vancouver's in a real tough spot here.
Every team is going to win a few games. I mean, you're seeing the Jets are a way better team than Vancouver.
They were in all these 1-goal games. Some of them they didn't deserve to win. I can agree, but some of them they just gave away. And over 11-game stretch there, you think they would have won like one of those 1-goal games where they took a penalty in the final minute or allowed a goal with the goalie where their team pulled the goalie for how many times this year. So it was really tough and pretty much sunk their season. Like they had a chance to get back in it, and you saw the Leafs. You thought they were out. They just went on a heater, and when we look back on this season at the end, like that 11-game win streak, that was it. Unfortunately,
it was a losing streak. Actually, not.
Did I say winning
streak? Unfortunately,
I'm trying to block it out. It was.
I hear you.
Rough.
I hear you. Positive vibes only going into this game tonight. Speaking of 11, the Lightning are looking for their 11th straight win tonight. They just went back-to-back on the Flyers. Very strange. They played in Philadelphia in back-to-back games and pasted the Flyers in both 7-2 and 5-1. They are in Pittsburgh tonight. Tampa minus 139 favorite. We've got Detroit in Boston. Boston coming off they scored 10 the other night. They're minus 128 faves. Carolina's in St. Louis. Carolina minus 175 favorites. The Leafs in Utah minus 147. Toronto plus 125. And then we come to the Jets. And despite where they are in the standings, they are the favorite tonight, minus 130. Islanders plus 110. Total for the game is 5.5. And I've kind of held off. I've been going elsewhere for cooking up parlays. It's tough to put one in, including Jets wins, when the wins were so few and far in between. I will say this: if the Jets win this game, we may not do it on Minnesota. That's going to be a tough spot on Thursday. But for the Leaf game on Saturday, we will crank up something up for the Jets. If you're thinking about a goal prop tonight, Kyle Connors plus 125, Scheif's plus 171, Gabe Vilardi plus 225. Jonathan Taves has goals in 2 in a row. Can he make it 3? Plus 375 for Taves tonight. Cole Perfetti plus 400, Josh Morrissey plus 500, and Neil Pionk, who is expected in the lineup, plus 790. If you're wondering about Matthew Schaefer, the Islanders wonder kid, he's plus 590 to score. His point number is plus 107 to get a point. And I don't believe there's any former Jets or Manitoba guys on the Islanders, so we don't have to do the Murphy's Law bet for the game.
That's a good one, Hassan. Yes, we talked about Cody Glass with his points, Brett Howden, Mark Stone. I mean, Eric Comrie.
Still can't believe Jeff Malott didn't score on Friday night.
Eric Comrie had his numbers, all that practicing. Must have been knew the move, and he had 4 shots on goal. And the Kings did lose yesterday to Minnesota. one thing, you look at the schedule, teams that played yesterday, Detroit playing again today. I don't know if you caught the Fedorov jersey retirement, but what a ceremony.
You know what? I didn't. Didn't he drive out in a car or something like that?
I do know that the Red Wings players wore like white skates in tribute to his white Nikes. Like they were all wearing white skates. And
I'll be in the room. All the players
off here. Oh yeah, these are so sweet. Like check these out. Like you didn't do this. Like no one had skates like this until he pulled out those Nikes. So I guess they had some tribute skates. I mean, all the legends there.
Brought to you by Arby's.
Yeah, brought to you. I guess that's a sponsor of the Red Wings broadcast. But all the legends there from those great Red Wings teams with his numbers. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that.
Yeah, that was awesome. Hey, you know what? Let's finish up the show. We do have to get this up. Maybe this is something we'll talk a little bit more when Ken joins us. We were talking about a bunch of the players in and around, the Jets that could be on the market. We do have a clip from that Chris Johnson pod that Remo was talking about. And, we've talked a lot about the guys that are UFAs for the Winnipeg Jets. But what about players that have a little bit of term? Nino Niederreiter is one of those players. And might there be a market for Nino? That was covered on Chris Johnson. So here's a little bit of that conversation.
He could be. Winnipeg hasn't got there yet. They have not, and they've won a couple games. So, let's see where things go. I know they lost a lot of games prior to winning a couple games, but they I'm convinced are still going to look at their team somewhere here late January. I mean, sort of in the same window of the other clubs I was talking about and make a call on which way they're going. If they veer into the sell, guys like Niederreiter, I think makes some sense. And, they do have pieces to move off of. But, as long as they still feel competitive, as long as they think they're in the race, if they start winning games, the calculus changes.
All right, so there's a little bit on Nino Niederreiter from Chris Johnson of The Athletic. That is going to do it for us. We'll talk more about that, the Jet situation coming out of this game tonight, as well as a look ahead to a quick one-day trip to Minnesota for the Winnipeg Jets before coming back to take on the Leafs on Saturday night. That is going to do it for us. Fun show today. Thanks to Michael Remis, of course, Connor Hrabchak, John Hodge, Pat Gregoire, and Dave Pagnotta of the fourth period. Enjoy the game tonight, everybody. Huge thanks to all the sponsors that make the show happen each and every day, and all of you for making us a part of yours. Have a great one. Enjoy the weather. Nice outside again today, and should be a fun one with Matthew Schaefer and the Islanders, led by Patrick Waugh, coming into the Canada Life Center tonight. Post-game will be up after the game on the Winnipeg Sports Talk channels. It'll be waiting for you there in the morning if you want an early morning listen from Connor and Liz. And we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. with the latest on the Winnipeg Jets and much, much more right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Thanks for listening.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.